Is happy Monday. It is yet another stream week. How's everybody doing? It is absolutely crazy what's going on these days. Welcome back to News for People That Have a Job. I am Jamie Delphine coming to you live from Los Angeles. Sound a little bit like a robot because I've got an air conditioner on. So if you're watching, the world, in fact, did not take the weekend off. But before we get into what is a genuinely stacked News Monday, and I mean stacked, we have to do the thing. And if this is your first time here, you're going to be really, really fucking confused. If you're not, you know exactly what we're about to do. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this into chat. If you know the ceremony, go ahead and participate. If this is your first time here, just kind of watch and see what we do, and you'll get it next time. So repeat after me. So, praise be to the node. Chat, that is where you say praise be. May our bit rate be stable and our frames never drop. Now you may bring your hands together, chat. May the cold, unfeeling data centers that govern our digital reach look upon us with favor. That's where we say the node provides. May our thumbnails be clicked. May our titles be searched. May the engagement metrics flow like a river to the sea. That's where we say let it flow. And chat, we now offer to the node our watch time and our subs and our follows. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We only ask one thing in return: that tonight's stream be blessed with good vibes, zero buffering, and absolutely zero copyright strikes. Amen. Praise it be the node. The node has spoken. Thank you, chat. All right, everyone, you may now open your eyes, and the ceremony is complete. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, chat, go ahead and grab your emotional support iced coffees, because I've got mine. Here's what happened while you were trying to have a weekend. All right, let's see if we can get this done in 15 minutes. Start the clocks. Quick recap for anyone who missed it. The United States and Israel are at war. So, it's being called the Third Gulf War, which is now an actual sentence that real human brains must now process. We're in the Third Gulf War. So, this weekend, the U.S. struck Iranian radar installations, drone sites, and the island of Qesem in the Strait of Hormuz. Let me know if I said Qesem wrong. Iran responded by firing on a U.S. military base in Kuwait. So that's the vibe we're at today. You blow my back, I'll blow up yours. You know, that sort of thing. One tit for tat, whatever you want to call it. Now, here's where it gets fun. President Trump went on Truth Social, you know, as you do, peak crisis management. See, you know, let me do that like this. Hold on. Peak crisis management, see? Much more appropriate. So, to announce that nuclear talks with Iran are continuing at a, quote, rapid pace. What's up, Crazy Dad? Approximately 4 hours later, and I'm not exaggerating, chat, 4 hours later, like, do the SpongeBob meme. Like, Iranian news literally came out, like the one that's linked to the Revolutionary National Guard, and announced that Iran was suspending those talks and opening other fronts in the war. So, rapid pace into a wall. That's on fire. Just yikes. Okay, so meanwhile, Trump announced on Truth Social, you know, because that's where we're gonna get all of the current up to the minute news now. He announced that on Truth Social that all of the shooting will stop, between Israel and Hezbollah because he personally called both sides and sorted it out over the weekend. Like a guy that like called to fix a Yelp dispute between like rival pet salons. He's like, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. I'm gonna call Hezbollah and then I'm gonna call Iran and y'all are just gonna let bygones be bygones or some shit. It's just not how it's gonna work at all, ever, in this reality. But then there is some really great tea, y'all. This is, okay. I'm pretty official. Everything I've said up to this point is cited. This one is last minute, and I'm gonna say sources aren't concrete, but the sources are saying, it's an Axios website, according to two sources, Trump actually screamed at Netanyahu. And I don't know how accurate that is, but they're saying he screamed at Netanyahu saying, "You're fucking crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your ass. Everyone hates you now. Everyone hates Israel because of this." And the chef's kiss is that at another point, he just flat out yelled at Netanyahu, screaming, "What the fuck are you doing?" Now, again, everything else I'm saying is cited in the Discord. This is to Axios website. Like, you'll have to Google this. This stuff might be retracted. I'm just saying, up to the minute news wise, nothing he's saying publicly and like announcing is like the current state of the war should be taken at face value at all. The too long didn't read rather is that Trump declared a ceasefire. The other party said no publicly and immediately. And that ceasefire was about 3 Scaramucci's long. Does that joke work for anyone? Let's move on, shall we? All right. So in January 2025, Trump signed an executive order banning trans people from serving in the military. Now, normally I'm not one to have any kind of sympathy for a bootlicker. A bootlicker is a bootlicker to me. Now, the official justification was that the transgender identity was a conflict with soldiers' commitment to an honorable, truthful, and disciplined lifestyle. Now, that I took issue with. So that was written by Pete Hegseth, who, and I want to be precise here, famously drinks before noon. He needed 2 Senate confirmation hearings because the first one went so badly that the Senate actually asked for a do-over. And he's currently reciting made-up bits from the Bible, and he's actually quoting Pulp Fiction to defend Trump's war as the actual whole-ass Secretary of Defense of the United States of America. Anyway, sorry, that one kind of got my goat. Today, federal appeals courts ruled the ban is unconstitutional. The 2-judge majority said it likely violates the Equal Protection Clause. And without getting too into the weeds on like the legal stuff, there's a clause that upholds an injunction that blocks the Pentagon from removing any troops already serving. So if you're in, you should be fine. Asterisk, is anybody fine during a Trump presidency? However, the recruitment ban stays. So people who want to join, like trans people that for whatever God fucking knows reason want to join the military, can still be turned away. But the roughly 41,000 transgender people currently in uniform cannot be removed while this crawls towards the Supreme Court. This is one of those things. There's gonna be a decision and an appeal, and then the appeal will take months. Like it is not gonna wrap up anytime soon. Here's the thing the administration keeps running into. They insist transgender service members are a readiness problem. The military itself keeps filing paperwork that says they're not. But Commanders say they're fine. The units say they're fine. The Joint Chiefs have essentially been submitting legal briefs that read, please, can we have an actual war going on? Like, just focus. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. And America loves biting its nose off to spite the Christian face, huh? Isn't that just kind of what that whole party is doing? That, by that party, I mean the very vocal acronym section of that party that has completely hijacked that party. Why can't we do that? Why not us? So, what do we think about that, chat? Can you believe there's 41,000 trans people in the military? And what do you think about like their right to serve? And do you think combat readiness is somehow affected by being trans? Let me know your thoughts in chat. I would love to know. Tell me in the comments. Ni hao, Atik. How are we? What are you doing? What are you doing in my chat? Hopefully having a good time. We probably have some stream streaks in here today too. Those are getting pretty fat. It's news for people that have a job Monday, Atik. I hope you're having a good one. We are reviewing the dumpster fire that is the current situation of America. The United Situation of America is what we got going on right now. Speaking of crazy dad with the 30 burger, what? You gotta get the fuck out of here with that nonsense. Crazy dad, are you serious, my guy? Thank you so much for like literally being the stream MVP. If there was anybody else with a longer stream streak, it's been broken. You are now the like all-time most dedicated chatter I've had. Thank you. I appreciate you. I'm really glad you're here, and I'm really happy you choose to spend any amount of time here. I never expect you to be here, but I'm absolutely grateful whenever you are. Thank you. And Atik is from Pakistan. Bro, what's up? How's Pakistan? Is hopefully things are chill. A lot of the world's kind of not chill right now. It's the opposite of chill. Okay. It's terrible. Whoa, what's happening in Pakistan? I actually don't know what's happening in Pakistan. Let's talk about Pakistan. I'm going to knock out a couple of these news stories that I wanted to chat about. We're going to talk about Pakistan afterwards. I'm super happy to talk about Pakistan. I don't know anything that's going on in Pakistan. And if you want to tell me about what's going on in Pakistan, I am super happy to know what's going on in Pakistan. But let me get a little bit of this heat out of here. Okay. Let's move on to some recent elections. And we have our own elections going on now. We did a major voting guide last stream, last news for people that have a job. If you want to check out that VOD, if you have not yet gotten your ballot in and you're in California, go to a voting center. It is too late to get your ballot mailed in to be counted. That's the word. That's what I'm hearing. So let's move on to some recent elections. These are around the country. Let's start in Texas, or I like to call it Tejas. Ken Paxton, the attorney general who was impeached by his own party in 2023, acquitted by the Texas Senate after his wife voted in his favor. Can't make this shit up. Texas politics, y'all. And who spent years under federal investigation. He just beat a 4-term incumbent senator, John Cornyn, in the Republican primary runoff. Paxton won with nearly 64% of the vote after Trump called him a true MAGA warrior. And Cornyn has been in the Senate since 2002. He was in the Senate Republican whip, so he has some power. He is the one that whips the votes. And he lost to a man who was impeached. So, if that tells you the current state of things, um, I hope y'all realize like this Trump thing was not it's not the peak. Like it's like almost a sign of things to come. So we had an actual sitting incumbent that was a whip, like did shit. Like he actually was a politician that helped get things like passed. The whip, their job is to help get bills passed. It's a really important spot. And you give it to somebody who's been in the Senate or the Congress for a while because they know people and they're able to get things done. That's why they become the whip. So to have that person beat out because who knows, I guess he didn't have Trump's blessing. And then this guy who's been impeached gets elected. That's what's going on in Texas. And let me know what you think in the comments. If this makes sense to you, if you think this is just politics, I'd love to hear your take on it. And then back to Atik about Pakistan. He says it's more about the brainwashed people, shitty culture, caste system, uneducated people, corruption, and so on. A lot of that sounds very similar to America. Here in the we don't really have a caste system. We don't at all have a caste system, but we do have an ownership class system. And for people that own property and are able to get into prestigious colleges and know people to get into certain arenas, different work circles and projects and award shows and events and parties, like all that stuff kind of it solidifies you and your social skills and your knowledge. And people that are raised in those circles and those spaces excel in those circles in those spaces because they're equipped with the tools. And we see a lot of that has to do with what is the remnants of slaveholder, slave owner and plantation owner, like yesteryear, like not just economic standing and residual wealth or I'm sorry, I actually forget the term. I'm dancing around it because I can't remember the term of it. When you pass your wealth on to your descendants, a generational wealth. So generational wealth in America is, I think, on another level compared to most other countries besides like really old established European countries are about the only other comparison to that. Because comparatively, America is only 200 years old. And so everybody's new money to Europe. Those are like kings that have like 1,000-year-old lineages. Just waiting for James Tallarico to beat Ken Paxton in the upcoming election for Senate seat against him. But for Ken Paxton, but he's running for this seat, and has like Republican backing. Are you telling me that James Tallarico is a Democrat that has enough backing to beat a Republican with Trump's blessing in Texas? I really hope that's true. Crazy Dad, do you have the tea? Are you giving us the tea? Because I will sip the tea, and the tea is piping hot. Pour the tea, sir. Pour the tea. Just imagine today, after a father killed his daughter and her new husband over a love marriage. It happens quite usually here. Yeah, I'm so sorry. That's crazy. Like honor killings and things like that. We don't really have anything like that. Like killings are, I mean, it's usually crimes of like circumstance or money. Like there is a lot of domestic violence, but I want to say most murder is in like very extreme situations. We don't see murder in the sense of like honor killings here in the States. Yes, he does. I feel this is the way. Bro, I hope you're right, because a Democrat taking out a Republican with Trump's blessing that beat out a 3-time incumbent who was a whip would be a saving grace. As much as I don't believe the Democrats can do anything, especially in Texas, yeah, it would be better to not have another Trump person in office. I'll admit that. Okay, so we're going to move now on to New York City. That's a big change from Texas to New York City. By the way, just want to say, like, Paxton now faces the Democratic State Representative James Tallarico in November. Like, he does. And that race is, from what I'm being told, that's actually being considered a genuine toss-up. Which, honestly, if you said that 5 years ago in Texas, someone would have called the paramedics on you. So, that's exciting. That's exciting. I'm happy to hear at least there's some movement. That's kind of like counter to the ratchet effect that, you know, we unfortunately see nationwide happening. But speaking of which, Zohran Mamdani was inaugurated as mayor on January 1st, because that's when New York inaugurates their mayors. He's 34 years old, and he's only a Democratic socialist, but we won't hold that against him. He's the first Muslim and South Asian mayor in the city's history. And he beat both Andrew Cuomo and the guy from the Guardian Angels. And that's the same Guardian Angels most people haven't heard of since the 90s. But Mamdani ran on public childcare, free transit, taxing the ultra rich. New York looked at its options, looked at its rent, looked at its options again, and said, yeah, we'll take the socialist. The free market has spoken and has said it can't afford not to vote for Democratic Socialists. You don't like Muslims? No, I don't mind Muslims. We love Muslims. I mean, Muslims are fine. I have no like or dislike for Muslims. Just aware of Zohran Mamdani being a Muslim. Which is awesome because he's the first Muslim and the first South Asian mayor in the history of New York. Do I believe in God? That's a crazy question. Let's get to it after we finish the news. We've got a couple more things to talk about. But let me know how you feel about Zohran and if you think he's doing a good job. Because, you know, balance the budget in your first 60 days. That's crazy work. That's crazy work. First, what was it, 60 or was it 90? I don't know. It was fucking fast. Let's move on now to the EOCC. For those of us here in the States, that is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And the agency specifically designed to stop your boss from discriminating against you. And the reason I bring it up is that they're now trying to eliminate two of the main tools for doing exactly that. So first, the EEO-1. And every year, companies with 100 or more employees report their workforce data, that's race, gender, job levels, to the federal government. And that data tells investigators where to look when people are getting passed over. So the EEOC wants to stop collecting that data. Presumably because if they don't have any record of it, it doesn't exist or something. Second, they actually want to cut a 1979 rule that lets employers voluntarily fix imbalances that their own data revealed. That's also on the chopping block. So without this data, every single discrimination case now requires a subpoena, which makes investigation slower, harder, more expensive, impossible for working people. So the Civil Rights Agency itself is making civil rights violations harder to catch. In other news, fire departments have decided that smoke detectors cause anxiety, and we will now just wait to see if anything smells weird. That's sarcasm, by the way. We're not doing that last one. But it follows the exact same logic. Am I streaming somewhere else? I am not streaming somewhere else. We're going to clip these, though. After I read these little jokes that I make, and I talk to you all in between, I clip everything from these streams. I don't know if you follow me on any of the other platforms that I'm on. I'm on TikTok. We're also on YouTube Shorts. And my Instagram sees a fair amount of these clips as well. What do y'all think? The federal just when you think there isn't any more federal government to dismantle, they find something else to cut. All right. So, this next one's about that slush fund that I think everyone's kind of heard of at this point. Trump's anti-weaponization fund, which is essentially a $1.8 billion pool of money just to compensate people who feel like the Justice Department wronged them during the Biden years, got temporarily blocked by a federal judge on Friday. The two Capitol Police officers who were beaten on January 6th filed the lawsuit. They described it as a taxpayer-funded slush fund to finance the insurrectionists and paramilitary groups that commit violence in his name. So they're not pulling any punches, and that's great. But a federal judge read that and said, okay, let's slow down. So that hearing is set for June 12th. And just to be clear, the people who got beaten up are suing to block payments to the people who beat them up with their own tax money. That's the timeline that we're living in now. So what do y'all think about that? Let me know in the comments. What the fuck? Like, the fact that Trump made that in the first place and it's gotten this far is cuckoo bananas to me. We are truly in the timeline that got abandoned. I'd love if anybody has a comment on the slush fund, because at this point it's really just, is that fucking real? Like, chat, is this real kind of moment? Chat, is this real? Okay. And one more thing. I know we're at the half-hour mark. I usually bang these out in 15 minutes, except for the socialist voter guide was an hour. So thank you for those of you that stuck through that entire thing. One more thing before you go, because this dropped today. And besties, y'all really deserve to hear about this. This is actually fucking scary. Hassan Piker and Cenk Uygur, if you're here, you know who they are. If you don't, big political streamers. Hassan is literally one of the biggest political streamers on the internet right now. And Cenk founded, he was part of the Young Turks when it was new. And both of them have their visas banned from the United Kingdom today. Like, they had a travel document permitting them travel into a country banned. Not like, we'd prefer you didn't come, harsh criticism. their electronic travel authorizations were revoked by the UK Home Office, which is like their White House. And they found out when they tried to board flights to London for South by Southwest, a huge conference, South by Southwest London, like one of the hugest of that conference series. And Hassan was supposed to be speaking, like, of course, that's why he was on his way. And that's where Jink was also scheduled to speak at like an Oxford thing. But the official reason that was given by the Home Office, like why their presence in the UK may not be conducive to the public good. That was the reason. That was the reason their presence was deemed bannable. Yeah, it's fucking shocking. So look, I'm not here to tell anybody like what you're supposed to think about anybody, these guys specifically. I've got my own opinions about both of them. You have your own opinions. They're valid. But the principle of the matter here is that in a Western democracy, two people got their travel revoked for political speech in the big year 2026. So I won't belabor this any further, but if the bar for being banned from a country is now said something critical of a government's foreign policy, then the bar is in fucking hell. And that floor even fucking has a trapdoor. So tell me what you think. I mean, this is, I think, a very alarming moment, especially considering everybody fucking knows the US has jumped the shark. Like, everybody knows we are the bad guys. We're the Empire. We are the Stormtroopers. At this point, the Imperial Death March is our national anthem. However, Britain is kind of, like, they're not great, but they've been, for lack of a better term, the voice of reason. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you see it a different way. The UK's kind of had their head on straight, at least. I mean, they've had some very outspoken, they've had a few bad eggs, like fucking who doesn't? But for the most part, the wheel gets jerked left, the wheel gets jerked right. They still seem to sail straight. And this is the first time I'm like, whoa, somebody jerked that wheel right. Like, basically, if I was following them, I would pull them over. But that would never be a position I would be in because I would never be a fucking cop. But this is crazy, right? From the UK, from Britain. I really didn't see that coming. Not me. I am shocked. As someone who's not very often shocked by politics, like, I read Marx, I knew this was all coming. I'll admit, I didn't think this all was going to happen this fast. Like, Trump was such a like Trump hit the second tower and just made everything terrible. Sorry, that's probably a bad analogy, but he is definitely the straw that broke the camel's back, in my opinion. And actually, that's everything for now. We got everything done in about 30 minutes. So let's recap. Let me know what you think, chat. Let me know what you think about the state of the world. That's the news. We're at war with Iran, and the ceasefire Trump announced this morning was rejected by the other party before lunch. The transgender troops the government tried to fire are still serving because the courts keep saying you can't kick them out. Texas Republicans nominated an impeached man to be their Senate candidate, and somehow that race is competitive now. New York's new mayor is a 34-year-old socialist, which is what happens when you let a one-bedroom go for $4,200 a month. The EEOC is shredding the data that it needs to catch discrimination. And a judge paused a fund that two beat-up cops say is paying off the people who beat them up. Now you have a job. You didn't have time for all of that. Now you don't have to pretend. You're welcome. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Now, besties, thank you so much for chilling and hanging out while we got the news for people with a job out of the way. If you have any comments on anything that I covered, please let me know. Also, if you want to check out any of the articles that I got this information from, I always post every news source in my Discord. There's a channel that's called News Clips, and you can find everything linked and cited there. We're going to switch gears because I have a little treat slash personal reckoning for everyone today, myself included. This is some of you might have already seen this. Let me open this up over here. Some of you might have already seen this. I was on an episode of Jubilee's Surrounded. It actually dropped yesterday. You might recognize this hot blonde down here in the bottom left. So Dave Rubin, who I had no idea who that was, by the way, versus 20 people they were calling far left Democrats. I know. And if you look at the participant lists, you will see my name. I was in there. I filmed it. I was in the studio. And then they edited me out of the cut. Which honestly, after watching it back, I get it. And we can talk about that afterwards. But I want to watch this together. Chat, you're going to go feral. I almost want to leave the comments on just because you can kind of see the type of audience in the comments that people, the things they say, the type of people that watch these videos. But honestly, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. And this is just from me to y'all, being real, being super transparent. This was a wake-up call for me. Because honestly, it kind of like was a check on where my skills are at in these spaces. And honestly, I'm not that sharp. And I can get a lot sharper. And I want to get a lot sharper. Because I know my politics. I know what I believe. I can defend it. But there's a specific skill set for these high pressure, rapid fire, 10 people talking over each other debate forums. This debate format. And I don't quite have it yet. And again, that's just me being real. That's me being transparent. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. So there was 20 hard hitters. I'm not saying I was bad. I didn't like shit the bed. I did go up. I made what I think were some really valid points. I couldn't quite speak, and we'll talk more about that at the end, from the position I wanted to. But it really made me just realize that these liberal commentators, these liberal pundits or content creators or whatever you want to call it, they're fucking sharp and they're good. Like there's this kid, his name's Parker Get a Job, and that kid, he knows his facts. Like he will shoot out fact after fact after fact. And that's where I'd like to be, or at least get closer to there. I didn't realize how far I was from that until I watched literally some of the like these are people that go fucking viral. And I was in the room to watch them work. And chat, it was amazing. Like they're really good. Like these people know what they're talking about. And it's entertaining. They know how to speak. They know how to carry themselves. And more importantly, they have the facts to back up their claims. And so I'm actively working on it. And I think I'm going to start doing some like longer chatting streams. Definitely on Mondays. I want to start doing the news for people with a job. Then we're going to do a recap. I want to chat with y'all. We're going to watch more political stuff on Mondays. Mondays is now going to be like news and politics. That's Mondays. So if that's not your bag, I don't blame you. Check me out on Tuesday through Thursday when I mostly do gaming or unboxing or sometimes in real life coverage of stuff. Feel free to if those are the days that you're interested in, tune in for those days. I'm just grateful you fucking tune in. Are you kidding? Um, However, I might also check them doing this on some other platforms. I have some other platforms that this type of content tends to work a little better and is a little better at pitting people of disagreeing opinions against each other. I am, of course, referring to the Clock app. I'm glad you see where you can go from there. I usually spiral. Yeah, and I'm gonna be real. The RSD was banging the drum loud as fuck after that, and I was like, I had to isolate. Like it was so loud. Like RSD makes the emotions are always loud, no matter what. Like if you don't do well, or in this format especially, because you get voted out when the majority of people want you out of that seat and out of the debate. They can vote you out, and that means half of the room wanted your ass out of that seat. That is so fucking triggering for RSD chat. That was insane. And there was a couple moments I had trouble like regulating when I realized we'll talk about that at the end. I'll hold that. But I definitely was like, yeah, like every possible challenge that could arise from making this kind of content is found in that arena. Like Jubilee, I'm not going to argue their merit. That is a completely separate conversation. What I will say is that as far as their content format, it is so entertaining, and the reason why is it really is that high stress environment. The stakes couldn't be higher, and it just very, very well pits ideas versus ideas. And I don't know anywhere else that's doing that on that level to this degree in any similar format. And if there is, I'd love to know, because this is the only one that I actually am aware of. However, I do want to practice these muscles. So these like debate style conversations, the one-on-one style conversations, because this chat, like doing these news segments for clips, chatting with y'all via a live chat, that's a different, completely different muscle set, like mental muscle set from debate style muscle set. And I want to be in those rooms. Like those, I feel like I am kind of geared to do these rooms well, but I need to work on a skill set and make it a little stronger, a little tighter, to really be at those tables. And I want to actually land, like when I'm at those tables, because like I got in and I sat at the table, and I had an exchange with Dave Rubin, and it went okay, and I think I made one valid point, although I did get voted out. But again, we'll talk about that. I'll really, really dive into that. Who knows? I might even get defensive because of the RSD. But of course, I'll work my way back out of it. So we're going to take a quick break. Just like a 5-10 minutes, personal care. I actually need to grab a glass of water because I don't have a glass of water. But when we get back, we're going to watch one MAGA Republican versus 20 far left Democrats, featuring Dave Rubin on Surrounded, where most people are saying he got his ass beat. But I will be right back. Don't go nowhere, and I'll see y'all after the break. What up, Chad? How are we doing? It is Monday. News for people with a job. Post news. Time to watch Jubilee's one MAGA versus I have a really hard time saying this. 20 far left Democrats. As far left as a Democrat can be, I suppose. So let's go ahead and pop on over and let's check it out. So, this is the format. You sit in a circle. That is me right here. I forgot my notepad. I thought in the email they said you cannot bring a notepad. And then I get there and they're like totally chill with notepads. I was like, God dang it. Wait, do they have a chat? I want to see if I can get their chat. Do they not have like a chat? Oh, because it's not live. Okay. Default viewer, full screen. Is there like a theater mode? Can I do a pop out? Oh, there we go. Here. Let me do this window instead. And that should actually work a lot better. Wait. How do I do that? Wait. How do I do that with picture in picture? Oh yeah, the question that you asked. Sure. Do I believe in a God? Okay, so do I believe that something created everything? Yes. Do I believe in the organized religions deities of like Christianity, Muslim, etc.? No. I don't think we have a grasp of what actually is like I think scientists are the closest things to clerics that we have. Like if the people that are actually closest to understanding our creator and where we come from are like subatomic scientists, quantum scientists that understand quantum mechanics are closer to God than anyone in any church, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and watch this.
You're arguing that things economically were better under Joe Biden
at the end of his administration, absolutely.
Yeah. So can you give me an example of how?
Yeah, GDP growth was better off. Real median wage growth was better off. Inflation was better off at the end of his administration. Unemployment was better off at the end of his administration. We had the worst year of job growth in the past 4 years, just this last year under Trump's administration.
Was the Rubin report, did that also accept Russian money?
What show did I do for Russia?
No, I'm not saying you did a show for Russia. I'm saying Russia saw you as a stooge who could easily say the talking points that benefited them.
But what law is stopping you from doing anything that another person cannot do?
Laws are not protecting trans people. If they were, trans people would not be disproportionately unemployed, unhoused.
What would you like the law to do for you? Again, the law can guarantee equality. It can't guarantee protection, right? So
yes, it certainly can.
So
it can if you make that the law.
The breaking point, or is the progressive movement the only answer to MAGA? I'm John Regalado, and from Jubilee Media, this is Surrounded, where one brave soul faces a room full of disagreeers. Today, we're unpacking what it means to be far left, the backlash to wokeness, and what your vote stands for in the upcoming midterm election. I'm here with our featured guest, conservative commentator Dave Rubin. Welcome.
It's good to be here.
Are y'all ready to debate, Dave?
So, just real quick, this guy's like MAGA. He's gay. He's married. Has an adopted child. And supports Trump in that whole bigotry team. Team bigotry. So,
let's begin.
I'm Dave Rubin of The Rubin Report, and today I'm surrounded by the far left.
Not really. Like a couple of us.
I'm going to do whatever it takes to win this.
Tom Steyer says he'll do anything to buy the governor.
How do we not have ads? I guess I have to pay for YouTube to do that. Here we go. So unless I want... Cool.
My first surrounded claim is that wokeism did more damage to America than Trump ever did.
Now, what I will say is that I really prepared for this one. I unfortunately did not get picked by the director to debate this point. This was the one that I actually wanted to speak on. It was really the only of the 3 prompts. And by the time I received the prompts, like, I could have backed out, but it would have been really shitty. And I might not have been invited back if I would have just backed out. I assumed showing up was better, but I also didn't realize how frustrated I was going to get. But we'll talk more about that in a second.
All right, if you would like to debate this claim, please get to the center in 3, 2, 1.
By the way, I'm just going to go ahead and call it out. That's bullshit. For safety reasons, they don't have anybody actually run the chair anymore. It's all staged. Sorry to burst your bubble.
He's quick.
Yes, I am. So I find it interesting that you think wokeism has done so much damage to America as opposed to Donald Trump. Wokeism did not kick 17 million Americans off of their health insurance through Medicaid. Wokeism didn't start a disastrous war with Iran that has now led to inflation outpacing wage growth. Wokeism hasn't ripped up institutions or attempted even to destroy free speech, even by your standards, because Ronald Reagan appointed judge ruled that the Trump administration was violating the First Amendment by attempting to deport, arrest, and detain students and faculty members on college campuses for protesting for Palestine. Wokeism, to me, it doesn't even have remote.
I just gotta say, I really appreciate the fact check element of this. Like, this is like all of American media needs this.
As disastrous as a track record as Donald Trump.
Well, how would you define wokeism? I guess we should start with that.
I think wokeism is a pejorative term that's used to describe left-wing cultural politics.
I would say that's like definition number 3. And at no point was definition number 1 actually stated. And it made me sad in my heart.
Right. And what do you think left-wing cultural politics are?
I'd say left-wing cultural politics include just the broad attitudes towards social justice, especially for minority groups that have faced persecution in various ways.
Okay, so I think the simplest way to define wokeism is basically collectivism on steroids, and usually as it applies to race and gender, meaning that you should be judged based on the color. You actually should be judged based on the color of your skin and your sexuality and your gender and a whole bunch of immutable characteristics. And depending on where those fall on the left's kind of hierarchy of importance, that's kind of how you can parse out where people should be and how important their ideas are.
So even assuming you're...
So he assumes that the left has like an hierarchy of race and sexual orientation or something. Like it's like the food pyramid and like gay people are at the top, I guess. I don't know.
Characterization to be an accurate characterization, which I don't necessarily take.
Right.
Can you
we're going to have a lot of trouble getting to a fair agreement on
that
wokeism.
Wokeism has, for example, skyrocketed inflation to outpace wage growth the way that Donald Trump's war of aggression on Iran has done? Can you demonstrate that wokeism has violated the First Amendment by arresting students and faculty members on college campuses?
Okay. Well, yes, I can. So let's start. Well, first off, the disastrous
that's true,
war,
but
disastrous war that you're talking about. You're
only
talking
because
about a
they're angry that
military
they're
operation
going
that
against their own
stopped an
self-interest.
apocalyptic regime from getting a nuclear bomb
and
exporting terrorism throughout the world. And we're now in an economic embargo of them, right? We've basically done a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. So to say it's a disastrous war,
we've done a blockade.
We did lose. Hang on. We did lose 13 of our soldiers, and that is
and killed over
terrible.
200 children.
But things happen in war, right?
Yeah.
Well, things do.
That's
happen
me. That's me. I was fucking shocked.
I agree. But
that's absolutely fucking shocked.
If Donald Trump wanted to prevent the Islamic Republic of Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, he could have just stuck with the Iran nuclear deal that he ripped up. Iran did not enrich past the 3.67. Wait, they didn't enrich past the 3.67% agreed upon in the JCPOA. They only got to 60%
I think that icon means that their flags up.
And then started doing aggressive actions.
I must say, I'm impressed with your talking points. You got impressive talking points, and you memorized them well. They're not correct, but I am impressed.
Okay.
First off, the Iranians admitted in the negotiations right before the war started that they were enriching past what they were allowed to. That's number one. Number two, you also have to go on the assumption. You also have to go. Hold on. Hold on. You also have.
Like, I saw some tweets, and some people were like, why did he agree to do this? So, like, this was literally just 20 people beating his ass, like, figuratively, not literally.
You also have to go on the assumption or acceptance that can you agree or verify their claims? It's one thing to say, oh, this is what we're doing, this is what we are.
Hold on. I have to read this one just because it's so egregious. The IAEA reports and U.S. analysis show Iran did not enrich uranium beyond the JCPOA's 3.67 limit until after Trump pulled the U.S. out of the nuclear deal. And Iran started exceeding that cap in 2019 in response to the withdrawal.
To et cetera, but you have to be able to verify that. And the idea that we have people on the ground or the UN or some third-party organization that can verify what they're actually doing with underground nuclear sites and a whole bunch of other things is, I would say, quite a leap of faith, right? You want to trust but verify.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
There was too many good people that I didn't make the cut. And I'm okay with that, but that's motivation to get sharper.
So the IAEA and U.S. intelligence said that Iran did not enrich past the 3.67% prior to Donald Trump ripping up and stepping out of the Iran nuclear deal in I believe it was 2017, 2018
so again,
when he did that.
In these negotiations,
because Donald Trump ripped up the Iran nuclear deal to begin with, that's the only reason why.
Let's try it a different way. I'll try it a different way.
The IAEA assessments agree with me, and Tulsi Gabbard, our director of national intelligence, testified in front of Congress last year, and according to the entire intelligence community, Iran did not have a nuclear weapons program.
Okay. They didn't have a nuclear weapons program. They were enriching past the point that they were allowed to for civilian use. Everyone knows that. But allow me.
Do you understand the weaponization process is different than just enriching?
Do you think the Iranian regime before this war, the Iranian regime that has oppressed the people of Iran for 40 years,
Tulsi Gabbard actually said in her testimony that U.S. intelligence agencies concluded that Iran was not currently building a nuclear weapon and it had not restarted the pre-2003 nuclear weapons program. She later clarified that Iran's highly enriched uranium stockpile could produce a nuclear weapon within weeks to months if the order was given to build one. That's because Trump pulled out of the agreement.
Regime? Would you say that was a good government? Would you like to live under those people? Were they progressive in any way? Do they hold any of the values that any of you guys hold?
No, but we don't just start wars on countries whose politics we disagree with or who are oppressive to their own people.
Everyone knows.
We're actually an ally to Saudi Arabia, and Mohammed bin Salman ripped up.
That I agree with. You don't do that.
Okay,
we got something. All right, we got something.
We got something with Israel that has committed gross human rights violations in Gaza.
I'm shocked that Israel came up. Israel.
The little icon is showing how many people have raised their flag. So I guess once the meter is full, half the people in the room have raised their flag, and now this person who's debating has to get up. And it starts slow at first. One of the things that I noticed was that at first it took a while for people to raise a flag. Nobody wanted to be the first one. Nobody wanted to be seen doing it. Everyone was kind of shy about it. But then after that, like, someone would be talking for 2 seconds and you'd see a flag go up. And it's just like, I don't know. As it progressed, people got more comfortable.
The only place that has any of the progressive values that any of you guys share.
Really? This is perfect. This is perfect because one of the things that you told me at the beginning of this conversation was that wokeism was judging people based on characteristics and collective thought. Israel is literally centered around the prioritization of the Jewish people as a matter of policy.
Hypocrisy.
That is literally collectivist thought. So you must hate Israel too. You must think that that's the ultimate. Let me
ask you something.
You really got him there.
Identity, right?
How many Muslim countries are there? How many Muslim countries?
So you're just pivoting?
No. I'm going to answer.
But wait, is Israel collectivist?
How many Muslim countries are there?
I'm sure there are a lot of Muslim countries.
You have
because
any idea?
There are a lot more Muslims than Jews.
Yeah. Well, just ballpark. How many Muslim countries are there?
I would probably maybe say, like, let's say between 10 to 20, maybe.
All right, you're off by about 40. There's about 52 or 53 Muslim countries. In any of those countries, how's it going for minorities, women, gays, Christians, Jews?
Yeah, I can say that other nations, it's extraordinarily repressive. But like I said,
we got to pause there. We got to pause there. You've been voted out by the majority.
Okay.
Please return to your seat.
And that was it. And he did really good. Everyone fake run.
Oh, she had it. She had it. All right.
So mad.
All right. Hi.
Good to meet you. I'm actually a big fan. I've been watching you since like all the way back in the Sam Harris era.
Oh yeah.
And then I remember you
softening me up. Okay.
No, you brought on like Stephen Molyneux, like the white nationalist, and I was like, this guy just loves ideas. He just loves all different types of ideas. I love that. But yeah, just wanted to talk right now specifically about the difference between progressive values and the MAGA coalition.
Sure.
It seems to me.
Now I gotta say, of the debaters, this guy was one of the most incendiary. He's clip farming, and I suppose I should have known this was going to be part of it. I certainly had some clips prepared, but not like this, and y'all will see what I mean.
That all of the ills that are attributed to wokeism are typically things that people find annoying. So people being overly, policey about their.
Also not, this is not the definition of woke. And I'm going to go ahead and say the definition of woke, woke is a term that comes from, you know what, hold up. I didn't get to say it at the debate. I'm going to say it here. Woke is a term that actually comes from Black culture. And it actually comes back from the 40s. And woke was actually in it was a blues song by a blues singer. His name was William Ledbetter. He was known as Lead Belly. And he used the word woke in a song. And it was like the first song that was ever like recorded. So I don't think it's recorded how long it had been used as a term up until then. It was like 1938, I want to say, somewhere around the 1940s. William Ledbetter was singing about being aware of like power and like what was dangerous, like being aware of who and what mechanisms were in power to keep you safe. And that was the original, from my understanding, that was the original meaning of woke. So it went from being woke, like stay woke, like as like a warning to a community. Again, it was like African American vernacular English. This was a term that meant like collectively keep us safe by remaining aware of the nefarious elements of society. And then it gets kind of co-opted, as things do. The concept, the term, the whatever you want to call it, by the liberal Democrats to sort of like package it up, and like sell it, use it for fundraising, things like that. Okay, back to watching the thing.
Pronoun usage or talking about specific groups that might seem extremely marginalized. That's what I typically hear from the right. I don't hear like a degradation of like society unless it's the far theocratic right. And I don't think that you ascribe to that. Would you call yourself a theocrat?
I mean, I wrote the best-selling book on classical liberalism, so it's funny. Welcome. I get called a conservative all the time. I actually happen to be a liberal in the truest sense. In the truest sense of liberal.
You should join the circle.
Not gonna lie, he's not wrong. Like liberal in the truest sense, like in outside of the United States, liberal doesn't mean the same thing, and he is quite liberal. And there are like libertarians who are a problem because they are extremely liberal without understanding the importance of governance.
And progressives are not liberal as a general rule of thought.
Yeah, for me, I just feel like that type of like annoyance that wokeism presents to the world is a lot less dangerous than like, I don't know, the coalition that you're a part of that like condemns people for having children when they're in gay marriages, or says things like, people that are of particular sexual orientations don't deserve the same equal rights. Would you say that that's something that's dangerous?
A coalition is going to have all sorts of people in it. So it's like MAGA, if we were talking
ideological diversity, right?
Yeah, if we were talking about what MAGA is, what I like about MAGA actually is that it's not a specific set of you have to believe this exact set, right?
Right.
You have to believe these exact
some people in MAGA can
things.
believe like gay couples can have kids, and others can believe like that's degeneracy and those people need to be jailed.
Well,
those are like the difference of ideas.
Well, actually, the tough answer to that is yes.
Oh.
As long as you're not trying to litigate someone's life. I am around a lot of conservatives all the time, and particularly Christian conservatives, let's say, they generally are not for gay marriage. By the way, there's not one mosque in the United States that performs gay marriages, which is worth noting.
Why are you so focused on Muslims today?
Well, I'm just giving you
Okay,
I'm just
gotcha.
giving you a fact. But what I have found consistently, Donald Trump was
glad
the
he pointed
first
that out.
incoming first-time president that was for gay marriage.
I actually really want to talk about that.
Barack Obama was not for gay marriage when he first came in.
And not until
so
2013.
what I would say is the MAGA movement, I mean, look, Scott Bessent, who's the Treasury Secretary, is married to a man and has kids. Peter Thiel is married to a man and has kids. Douglas Murray is one of the greatest voices we have in conservatism, happens to be gay.
Yeah.
I don't, for the most part, people on the right actually believe in individual rights and don't really care. But that doesn't mean
that's
that,
where
that
you
doesn't
lost me,
mean,
though,
that
because
doesn't mean that everyone has to have the same religious perspective on everything.
But you've been around the block for a long
Man,
time.
I wish I
and
would've
just like
got
you
on
alluded
this
to, in
point.
2016, Trump held up a flag that said LGBTQ for Trump. He
Yeah.
was asked in a CBS interview, would you let Caitlyn Jenner use the bathroom that she wants to in your hotels? He said absolutely. He didn't have a problem with that.
He actually gave a better answer than that. He said, I'm a hotel builder. If you told me I had to build one bathroom, that would be fine with me. I think it's a great answer.
But that's what's crazy is that evolution has changed so much to the current MAGA movement. The MAGA
How do you
movement
see
today,
that?
Donald Trump would absolutely not say that somebody could use the bathroom aligned with their gender identity. He specifically banned that. And not just that, but he's also just called for, he specifically wrote an executive order that classifies far leftist groups, like pro-transgender groups, as a danger to the country, which often the
Wish I would've been
entire
on this point.
military can
Sorry.
go after.
Sorry,
That is
Chad.
insane. That is absolutely a violation of people's individual rights.
All right, so you want to talk about the trans issue sort of broadly, I
want to talk about the MAGA coalition
What I
that
can
claims
tell you-
to be
what I can tell you-
pro-individual liberty, yet wants to police the way that people express
But what are they
themselves,
doing?
that also wants to police
but
people's
what-
bodies,
Did light
that
his
want to
ass
go
up
after
at this
people
part.
specifically because of their ethnicity.
Right.
None of that should be
Okay, so
tolerated.
Donald Trump is in the middle of his second
I
term.
raised my
Gay
hand 'cause I was
marriage
like,
is
I wanna
here,
get in
it's
there.
passed, it's a just
Then
cause.
why
I
are so
believe
many...
in individual
wait,
rights.
wait, you're friends with Michael Knowles, right?
I never
yeah.
got
Yeah,
it.
so what's that
I should've
coalition
done
again
this.
called? I think it's like Less Equal, that's trying to actually get rid of Obergefell and overturn gay marriage rights. Does that not concern you?
Well, first off, I've never heard of that specific organization, but what I can tell you...
You're friends with them!
Michael is
Literally.
part of. I just don't know what you're talking about. But what
You
I
can
would
look it up right
but
now.
what I would
it's
say
called
is
Less Than.
no.
And
there
it's
are-
Lila Rose, Michael
Yeah.
Knowles. I think it's
That was
what's
so
that guy's name at the
such
Daily
a
Wire, the
clip
headline?
farmer.
Okay, but that's not Donald Trump.
I understand that you want to go
good.
away
No,
from this.
no. That's not
topic.
Donald Trump. That's
Chat.
not the head of the party.
He's
I
good.
have friends. Well, first off, Michael and I are friends, but there is a cap on our friendship. There
How are
actually
you friends
is.
with someone who doesn't want you to be in love, my man?
He doesn't want me to be in love. He's had dinner
Look,
at
Dave,
my house with his wife. My husband cooked for him.
That's against God,
Yeah.
so I want to have a
But
word
but,
with him.
but no,
real
no, no,
quick.
no. But think about what you're
Wait,
saying. I
but
get
Dave,
it. No,
real
no.
quick.
Think about what I'm saying.
But what I wanna say is
your
one
name.
of those
Wait.
Kyle?
Hold on, champ. You know, in your world
Everybody's
of how
linked in the
tolerant you
YouTube
are
video.
showing me you are, you're actually showing a remarkable amount of intolerance because although I don't know the group that you're talking about, Michael Knowles as a human being has been to my house and my husband has cooked him lamb and we have enjoyed
Wow.
evenings together and shared personal moments and all of those things. Now, do we agree on absolutely everything? Of course, the answer to that is no. And if Michael or anyone else was trying to lead some organization that was going to go against my civil rights, well, that is where obviously we would
And
have
I'm-
our difference of
I'm
opinion,
really-
of course.
Dave, I don't wanna come for you personally.
I
I'm
also
glad-
respect people's religious beliefs. They're allowed
Right.
to have their religious beliefs. Their religious beliefs are not allowed to legislate my life. This is all very separate from the trans thing, which obviously I sense is going to come up a few more times today.
I'll just say real quick, I'm not trying to come after you. I believe that you should
As I
have
sit
the
right
full
behind him.
liberty to have the family of your choice.
Yeah.
But what I will say is I'm glad Michael treats you with respect individually when you guys are together. But when he goes in front of his platform and says that a video of two gay men having a child is the most disgusting thing that he's ever seen, which is a quote, you can look up the tweet. Michael said that child is in one of the most dangerous situations he can think of, which is crazy to think of all the abusive parents that actually live in this society, regardless of sexual orientation. And you're going to look at a happy family and say, this is disgusting. That should feel like a violation.
Okay, so I didn't see that video, but if what you're asking me is if do I agree with, if let's just say what you said is true, do I agree with Michael's point on that, of course the answer is no.
But that is the MAGA coalition.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
That is the ideology.
No, that's not the coalition. No, that's not the coalition. No, that's not the coalition.
That is what the administration is pushing.
You're taking a very specific person and you're saying.
Is it a small specific?
Oh,
is it
absolutely.
A
yes.
No, it is not.
Yes. Oh, it is.
No,
that's completely absurd. It's completely absurd. It's completely absurd.
We got to pause there. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
The trans thing. Just trying to completely separate us.
Good grab.
I want to go to your prompt in a second, but I just wanted to address, so I actually come from a Christian background. I spend a lot of my career debating Christian nationalists.
That's
and
interesting
even
point.
the nicest Christian nationalists, they do want to take your rights. I spend a lot of time talking to these people, even the really nice ones. So I just want to be careful, and I guess I want to say, like, I remember when you posted about having your kids on Twitter, which congratulations on your
thanks.
kids. The comments were horrifying. I don't know if you remember, but it was Christian nationalists and Republicans tearing you and your husband down for having a child.
Well, you should also note there was a lot of love. There was an awful lot of love from an awful lot of conservatives and liberals and people across the board and everything else. The way the internet operates is people only focus on the negative. So was there a whole bunch of nasty
Which
comments?
side did it
was there
come
a whole
from
bunch
more?
of nasty?
Do you guess? Let's be honest. Let's just be honest. Which side supports
for
it
that?
more?
If you're asking me about for that specific
Democrats
post, it was
and liberals.
for that specific post, it was mostly people on the right, for sure. It was.
Who are attacking you?
Yeah, I
Of course.
fully acknowledge that.
Of course.
Absolutely. 99% of the hate that I get is from people that are in this circle.
Sure, but it's definitely not for being gay.
What?
It's for supporting, going back to the prompt.
No.
It's for supporting.
It's not for being gay, like
an
the act of
authoritarian,
gay.
desiring, probably demented old man. So going back to
When
the
I got there, I
prompt
was
of
like, who is that?
wokeism, it seems like you defined it as intersectionality, some collectivization based on demographic factors.
We could basically
So
go with that.
wokeism is intersectionality.
It is a intersectionality is a piece of wokeism. If you're going to group people on these immutable characteristics, and then you decide based on this, we got to put black people up here, we've got to put white guys down here, gays are going to be above the straights, trans will be above the gays. You know, you have this
And what
endless
specific
hierarchy.
policy harms have happened?
I mean, quite literally, the easiest one would be college admissions. I mean, we know that Harvard and other colleges were discriminating against mostly white and Asian students because they wanted more diversity, and they were allowing students of color with lesser grades
propaganda
to get in.
chat.
As a general rule,
If we're worried about universities, who's cutting their funding?
Well, hold
who's
on. Do you
cutting
agree?
science
Do you
funding?
agree? Do you agree that that happened?
To some degree, I think it was overblown to a large degree.
yeah, I
Because
mean,
affirmative action basically ended, I think, in the early 2000s, right? A lot of these issues were clamped down on pretty quickly. And the issue is that when you look at the reason why...
I mean, you could look at corporations. I mean, all these corporations that have their DEI stickers. I was just on a Delta flight. They still have their DEI sticker on there.
DEI is not inherently a bad thing. Why would diversity ever be a problem for anyone?
Well, diversity in and of itself is not a problem. But if you say we are going
What about inclusion?
We are going to hire people and we are going to factor in all of these immutable characteristics inherently by saying we're going to elevate one group of people, you are going to have to discriminate against another group of people.
Do you have a diverse...
And that actually is racism
Do you have a
and or
diverse,
bigotry.
unique experience based on your gayness that other people will never have?
I'm sorry?
Does your gayness give you insight into certain experiences that other people simply will not have because they're not gay?
Well, I suppose as a gay person, I do have experiences that some people don't have.
And you probably have knowledge
That was
and
funny.
experiences.
Did you not catch that?
I
You
did
didn't-
get
you
the joke.
kinda- you got that? Okay.
I mean, lots of people do all sorts of crazy
okay.
sex. Yeah.
All right, yeah.
But the issue is that what we're talking about here when we come to diversity.
But I wouldn't want that
is
to
a
have
benefit.
anything. I wouldn't want that to have anything to do with me being hired. Or
Sure,
me
but
being
it's really
allowed
hard to
into a
compare. So,
school.
sir, let's say I granted you all of the woke harms.
Yeah.
The issue is that it didn't take us to Iran. It didn't kill schoolgirls. It didn't, right now, crush with the FCC and kick multiple people off of air and threaten to pull things. It's not burning books in
Wait,
Florida.
Who's been kicked off air?
Jimmy Kimmel got kicked off of air. ABC was regularly under threat for doing these things. The FCC president,
ABC made a
president
decision.
came out after
Jimmy
Trump
Kimmel-
called
but
him
Jimmy
and
Kimmel's
said
on air.
that we
Jimmy
can't have these
Kimmel's
type of
on air.
things. They crushed James Tallarico. But this has happened over and over again. There
What do
are
you mean? They
books
crushed
being
James
burned.
Tallarico. James Tallarico is the nominee right now.
They crushed his appearance.
What do you mean they crushed
The
his
FCC
appearance?
wouldn't allow his appearance.
I don't know
What?
what you're
Really?
talking about. I have literally no idea.
guess
what you're
it's
talking
Is that
about.
true?
Pause there.
Yeah.
I think you were talking
James's
about
interview
Colbert's
was pulled.
show, But
James Tallarico's Colbert interview was pulled from CBS's broadcast, not because of FCC outright banned him, but because CBS lawyers, citing the Trump FCC stricter equal time guidance for political candidates, advised that airing it could trigger equal time obligations, so the show ran the interview only on YouTube. So basically, because he said, if you show that candidate, then you have to show the other candidate. Or I guess if CBS shows that candidate, then CBS has to show the other candidate.
You've been voted out by the majority.
Okay.
And this was it. This was like the last chance to get up there. And
you guys are slow, bro. How's it going, Dave?
You're quick. How you doing? How you doing?
So, I just quickly wanted to recognize.
I love
like, this, by the way. You're a very unconventional household, and wokeism has brought you that household, right?
The other things are
to live with your husband, to have your 2 children, or conceive through surrogacy, and I appreciate that.
Wokeism didn't bring that. Equal rights.
So wokeism is, as I define it, as I view it personally, is looking to expand on already existing civil liberties, right? To ensure that, to ensure America practices what it preaches: equal protections, inclusion of everybody, democracy, etc. So it's not a policy prescription; it's a social prescription. Donald Trump is president. He's the head of the executive branch. He has a trifecta, a judiciary that's on his side. Donald Trump's violent. Donald Trump's destroying the pillars of America: democracy, negative rights, the rule of law, our Constitution. The list goes on and on. So I'm just curious to see, what institutional damage has wokeism done? And if you want to engage with Trump being violent, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
this kid came ready. And I say that just because it sounds cooler than this guy came ready. But he is really good. I don't know who this is. Is this David? Yeah, David Mauricio followed.
Don't agree with anything you said there, period. First off, wokeism isn't what led to, say, gay marriage. What led to gay marriage is a fight for equality under the law. If you believe that heterosexual marriage, that an adult should be able to engage in any sort of contract with another adult, then that has to be equal. That's what equal protection, which you just mentioned, is. And that's actually what the decision was based on.
Yes.
So that was not wokeism. That was the promise of America, which is the promise of individual rights and equal opportunity. As for a few of the other things that you said there, again, if we could do you want to do the Iran thing again.
No, I said Donald Trump is violent.
Yeah, so Donald Trump is violent in what sense?
So I also want to mention the reason why you left the left, correct me if I'm wrong, is because you believe progressives were turning to authoritarianism. Am I correct there?
I mean,
that was your PragerU video. You said it. You can't deny it.
Settle down, Chip. There was a panoply of reasons that I did.
But that's one of them, correct?
Yeah.
Do you think it's authoritarian for the president of the United States to call for the death of 6 active members of the legislature for making a video that is totally fine and legal?
It's interesting. Oh, well, first off, you're talking about the video where they basically
Mark
Kelly and several of these guys were basically saying, if you're in the military, you can go against Trump and all those things. Well, first off, there are some legal actual reasons that perhaps you should not, as a former member of the military, be telling.
Yeah, the punishment for making videos is death. I forgot. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Did anyone
hang him? George Washington Wood.
Did anyone get put to death?
It doesn't matter. The president of the United States is actively calling for the death of members of the legislature.
And is anyone in trouble? Is anyone in trouble because of that? You're missing the difference.
No, you're saying Donald Trump. Hold on. Let's just understand the prompt here. You said wokeism has done more damage than Donald Trump ever did.
So
can you tell me a single time wokeism is doing something remotely similar?
So remotely similar as Donald Trump
damage?
Being slightly sarcastic.
I can give you damage.
Let me explain something.
I can give you the damage. Hold on.
Listen, let me explain something to you. Donald Trump, all you need to know about, for any one of you guys that think that Donald Trump's coming for you because you're gay or you're trans or something like that, or you're black or anything else, might I recommend you just read Art of the Deal, which Donald Trump wrote about 40 years ago.
It's terrible. He's just discussing his activities throughout the week.
You can dismiss it. You can dismiss it. But Donald Trump gave you his playbook 40 plus years ago. 40 plus years ago, he gave you the playbook on how he negotiates. He leads with crazy
things. So this is irrelevant
things.
to what I'm currently talking about, right?
No, it's completely...
No, you asked me about damage. I can give you examples, but you don't want them because you know you're going to get fried.
No,
that is the truth.
It's completely
Donald Trump tried to rewrite the Constitution via executive order with Executive Order 14160. And it was followed up by 141601, where they used this to target individuals for pro-Palestinian speech like Mahmoud Khalil. And this was already ruled upon, by the way.
All right.
This guy came ready.
I'm sure you know about this, correct?
Okay, first
but you're
off,
trying to rewrite the Constitution via executive order. Can the president do?
Executive orders 14160 and 14601 are not orders trying to rewrite the Constitution to target pro-Palestinian speech. 14160 is a birthright citizenship order, and 1416001 doesn't exist. The Trump administration has instead used Executive Order 13899 and Executive Order 14188, both billed as combating anti-Semitism, to justify investigations, visa cancellations, and deportation efforts against pro-Palestinian campus activists, including citing EO 14188 in connection with the arrest of Columbia graduate Mahmoud Khalil.
There is a difference.
Can the president do that?
Hold on. There is a difference between exercising free speech.
He's not answering.
There's a difference between exercising free speech and closing down a campus and not letting students get. You're an interesting character. Yeah. No, you seem nice.
Very combative.
There's a difference between exercising free speech, which I will always defend your free speech, no matter how noxious it is.
The president
and
doesn't.
closing down campuses. No, they weren't. No, Mahmoud
Yes.
Khalil and all of these masked
He was
Hamas
almost deported with
jihadis-
no cause, and it's
Okay,
literally in the documents of the case.
Well, first off, Marco Rubio has illustrated the point many, many times.
true.
If you're here on a green card or a student visa
They
or
cannot
anything
revoke
else,
it with no
you
cause.
don't have the exact same protections that you don't.
Congress
I mean,
shall make no law. What?
No. For people that are citizens of the United States of America.
What's the precedent for that?
Wait a minute.
Nothing.
Like,
So
what
Donald
people
Trump
here
tried to
have
sign an
rights.
executive order rewriting the birthright citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment. Where'd he get this power?
Admit it or not.
Let me ask you something. Do you think
Is it
let me ask you something.
authoritarian
Let me
to
ask you
act on
something.
a self-granted
Let me ask you something.
authority?
Hold on.
Is it? Can you answer my question?
Hold on.
You're not going to.
You
Yeah, I got it.
gotta let me chat here for a sec.
Let
Listen.
Dave talk.
Let me ask you something. Let's try it this way. So let's say you and your
let
girlfriend
him
went
say,
on vacation.
but when he does let him say
Bora
something, it's
Bora. You show up to the most
unrelated.
beautiful place on earth, and she's 7 months pregnant, and she then gives birth in Bora Bora. You think your child
Yeah,
should be
he's
a
not really letting
citizen
him
of French
debate, but-
Polynesia, Bora
I mean, he's letting him talk, but when he talks, he doesn't say anything.
Bora?
The
And you
United
think
States
that
affirms that
makes
just
sense?
solely principle, and I'm sorry,
Yeah.
the president cannot defy it because
Yeah.
he doesn't
No,
like
the
it.
president-
That's how our
the
country
president-
works.
No,
and
you
that
can
is an
fight
example
it.
of damage to
You
America.
can fight it in the courts. You can fight it in the courts.
He doesn't
right?
like the courts. He
Yeah.
ignores them. Prior to the Alien Enemies Act removals, Emile Beauvais.
Okay, we're out of time. We got to stop there.
Okay, gotcha.
And I didn't get
My
a chance
next
to get
surrounded
in.
claim is if you still vote for Democrats in 2026, you're voting for broken cities, broken schools, and broken borders.
And I
If you would
actually like agree with this. So now what?
To debate this claim, get to the chair in 3, 2,
I gotta sit down on this one, but they didn't include it.
1.
Hey, how are you, Santana?
So, can you
This guy's
explain
pretty
a
good.
little bit about what you mean broken cities, broken schools, broken borders?
Sure. Well, broken cities, I would basically, you can boil it down to crime and drug use. And I can tell you, having been here in Los Angeles for the last 36 hours, I have seen more homeless people, more drug use, more urban decay than I have seen in the last 5 years combined
What state do you
living
currently
in
live
Florida.
Florida?
Yeah.
Got it.
In terms of schools, it's basically brainwashing kids and teaching them what to think instead of teaching them how to think. And then what was the third one in terms of, borders is the easiest one. I mean, under the Biden administration, we let in somewhere, we don't even know what the actual number is, but somewhere between 16 to 20 million illegals. If Donald Trump did quite literally nothing else in his presidency, just getting control of the border, I would say would be good enough, because you don't have a country if you don't know who is in it.
Okay, all three of your claims are wrong. Pick which one you want to be proved wrong on.
Let's do borders.
Perfect.
Okay.
Donald Trump is absolutely the worst president on the border. First and foremost, you can talk about the Langford bill, which was a piece of legislation which would have strengthened our
Hold up. I just want to say I'm seeing other creators that are also saying that they were cut out. I'm not the only one making this content, so it's not salt. It's just like there's a reason why we weren't included in this, and it's not because we weren't far left.
borders, but Donald Trump had that legislation shot down. He
Wait,
also
wait. So were the borders open under Obama?
No.
Or under Biden? Let's
No.
try that. The borders were not open.
What piece of
so
legislation
we did not,
did he pass to open the borders?
No, it's not about a piece of legislation. It's about quite
So how
literally
do you open the borders without legislation?
You just let people through, which is
So
exactly what
there
we're
was
doing.
no one standing at the borders. Everybody just come right in.
In many cases, yes, actually. In many cases, they were quite literally.
Because the argument about liberals versus Republicans, this these arguments is more entertaining than when you do get into the policy stuff.
Moving barbed wire fence.
Where did you get
guys,
this information?
There are videos of it. Have you ever seen the video of Bobby?
Did you fact check the videos?
Have you ever seen the video of Bobby Kennedy when he was running as a Democrat, standing at the border? He was still a Democrat.
Wait, you're talking about the same one that sniffed coke off a toilet seat and admitted it recently.
Wait, no.
The same one that actually took a dead bear and dropped it in Central Park. The same one that actually chopped the head off a whale. You're citing RFK Jr.?
Yes, I am citing RFK Jr.
No, I don't hear that.
Who's running HHS right now.
Which he shouldn't be, but that's fine. Yeah. Listen, when you talk about...
how many people do you think came in under Biden? Let's see if we're even operating on the same plane.
The acceptable number is about 10 million.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So I'll grant you that. They say it could be anywhere, I've heard 16 to 20 million, but let's say it's 10. Do you think that's good or fair or just or how a country can operate?
I think that when you create instability throughout the world and then you also tell people that your country's open, then you create an actual quote-unquote border crisis. Think about this really quick.
What instability was Joe Biden causing?
What was Barack Obama's nickname?
Barry?
Deporter-in-chief. Barack Obama had a negative immigration rate. That means that he deported more people than he let into the country. So you're
for deportation.
So we can say that there wasn't a border crisis under Obama.
What? So you're for deportations? Why did he agree to do this? I really would like to know. He is just getting his ass beat.
All right.
The border crisis was significantly worse under Biden.
But under Obama, was there a crisis?
Barack Obama did.
Yes or no?
Barack Obama,
yes or no?
Barack Obama did deport, I think, more people than Donald Trump.
So,
yeah.
but then
I wish
you're saying,
Donald Trump was deporting more people.
Sure, I agree. So you're saying there was a crisis under Biden?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
But no crisis under Obama?
No, I didn't say that. He was deporting.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Wait, hold on. Let's do Biden.
He had a negative deportation rate.
Let's do Biden.
He's got him against the wall.
Trump.
No,
Biden and Trump. Let's do the last two administrations.
He wants to keep it Biden versus Trump. And that's fair. Biden's not a great president. Really just kind of, the goal of Biden was for him to just keep the wheel steady, keep his hand on the wheel and keep the ship going straight. Yeah, he just doesn't want to debate this point, and he keeps trying to get him to debate this point. And so they're trying to have two different debates here. And it was unfortunate because this guy, he has a way of speaking that I think comes across like a lot of people could really vibe with. Like, comes across really genuine and knowledgeable, and he doesn't seem like stuck up, and he's easy to understand.
Question, yes or no?
I am for anyone that will close borders and deport
I'll say
people.
no. I'll say no. That's
okay,
fine.
Okay.
So if there wasn't a crisis under Obama and there was a crisis under Biden, what happened in between those two administrations? Was there something that happened?
Wait, are you blaming Donald Trump for Joe Biden's border?
No, what I'm blaming Donald Trump for is when he's actually campaigning for president and he's going around and to any news organization that would let him speak and telling everyone that the border's open. They're wide open. Come on in. Come on in. And he actually created something that wasn't there. So wait, you're blaming people coming to this country illegally. You're blaming Donald Trump. Donald Trump, who really only appeared because of...
And this is where he kind of lost me because it was kind of outlandish and a little left field. And it's a shame that they were having this debate because it really is just kind of like they weren't having the same debate.
Borders, right? Build a wall.
There wasn't a border issue.
That's what
there wasn't a border issue when he said that. Right, but then when there was instability,
we've always had a completely porous border.
We had a negative deportation rate under Obama. He created the actual desire for people to come here because he told the lie that the borders was open.
Wait a minute, but why? But if America's a racist, evil, capitalist country, why would these people want to come here?
Because we have all the money in the resource countries that they're in. Because the United States of America
is pretty good.
Destabilizing other countries. Our CIA keeps destabilizing other countries and overthrowing other countries.
So who did
We're doing that right now.
Wait. So who did Barack Obama destabilize that then Donald Trump allowed into the country?
The point being is our country has a history of destabilization. That doesn't matter if it's left or right.
So who did Barack? Well, I'm just playing your game here. So wait, I'm just playing your game, man.
Created the need for people to come here. and
Iraq.
there was no crisis, then Donald Trump not only created it, but he didn't handle it.
I'm sorry, man. Nothing you're saying is making sense here. What you
What was
won't,
Donald
you won't,
Trump
Okay, we got to pause there. You've been voted out.
What
Yeah,
country
this is
did Barack
messy.
Obama destabilize that caused people
He got
to
a couple
come
of
here
punches
under
in the
Donald
gut,
Trump?
I guess you'll never know.
Okay, you've been voted out.
Okay.
What if you never needed to wait to get medical
So
care
I don't
again?
know. It's like there's 20 people, and there's like 20 minutes per prompt. So there's really not enough time for everyone to get up there and talk anyway. They will reset the clock and stuff. Like if it gets kind of silly, or if somebody's kind of goes up there and like it just doesn't land. They will like add time to the clock and stuff. I mean, it's a production. So, well, what happened? Let's see what happened here. Oh, y'all, it's time for maybe a girl. So honestly, this is a really cool chance for me to go ahead and give a shout out to my sister. I don't think she streams. She's on the here. She's on the gram. So you can find her on Instagram. This is maybe a girl who is running for California State Senate SD 26. She did amazing. But go ahead and watch for yourself.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Yeah. What's your name? What's your name?
My name is Maybe. Nice to meet you, Dave.
Good to meet you.
So I myself am a Democrat. I'm actually running for state senate here in California.
And this is where me and Maybe's politics differ the most. She is a Democrat. She has decided to run for office and try to work from within the machine. And I just don't. I'm working in other coalitions outside the Democratic Party. I don't see the Democratic Party as viable, and that's okay. We both have our strategies. Now, that being said, this debate is the perfect arena for someone like her. And she's uniquely primed for this moment. So get ready. This is fucking amazing. This is an absolute must watch, and I'm very happy to bring it to you.
Okay.
I would argue that I am about as far left as you can get as a Democrat.
Okay.
And I'm critical of the Democratic Party because I actually don't think they're left enough. If we're going to talk about broken cities, here we are in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is not a broken city. I live here. I feel safe walking down the street as an openly trans non-binary person, as somebody who does drag. This is not a broken city. It is unaffordable in many ways, but that is the case across the rest of the United States. And if we're going to talk about broken cities, we actually need to talk about broken states. 8 out of the 10 poorest states in the United States are Republican controlled. And the majority of states that are the wealthiest states are democratically controlled. And these are actually donor states to Republican states. And the irony is that Republicans are against welfare, except when it comes to funding their states.
Okay. Well, first off, I would say I'm very glad that as a trans person you feel safe here. You should feel safe, and I treat anyone
Hold
that
on,
treats
let's
me
read that fact check, Dave. Most of the poorest states are Republican-led, while many of the wealthiest are Democratic-leaning. Consensus in state legislature data shows that 9 of the 10 poorest states vote Republican, and 18 of the 19 poorest have Republican-controlled legislature. Fiscal analysis also find that higher income blue states often pay more in federal taxes than they receive, while poorer red states often receive more than they contribute.
Respect, you're going to get respect out of me, so I appreciate that, and I'm glad to hear it. I assume you've been to West Hollywood, right?
I have.
I used to live in West Hollywood, pretty close to the Abbey, and I left about I moved to the Valley before that, but I lived there for about 6 years, and the 6 years that I lived there, from about 2013 to 2019, it was pretty clean and it was pretty safe, and there weren't drug addicts and homeless people all over the place.
Here comes
I spent the
anecdote.
last 2 days there in West Hollywood. That's the hotel I'm staying at is there. There are drug addicts and homeless people everywhere. Everywhere. You would acknowledge that is the case, yes?
I would acknowledge that, but I would also acknowledge that there are plenty of housed people who are also drug addicts, and they never seem to be the problem. It's only when they're existing in poverty, abject poverty outside, that you have to witness it, that it becomes a problem. The issue is not that these people are dangerous. The mythology around people experiencing homelessness is that they are dangerous. The reality is that unhoused people are more likely to be victims of violent crime than perpetrators.
Well, all right. So listen, I can actually get on board some of what you're saying here. Now, there's a couple issues here.
Wait,
Because
Dave,
one
we
of them is
gotta
not
pause for the fact check, because she said research and local data consistently shows that unhoused people are far more likely to be victims of violent crime than to commit it, with rates of assault, sexual violence, and even homicide many times higher than for the general population.
It's about violence. If you are going to create the conditions, the economic conditions, or whatever you want to call it, that's going to allow for these people to be out on the streets, would you want to walk a baby in a carriage down that block as these people are there? I don't think you would.
I would, because I don't know the last time I've heard of an unhoused person attacking a baby. And these are,
you know what? I would say if you, no, it's not fear mongering. If you were a young mother and you were pushing a carriage and there were a bunch of people who clearly were on, well, now they have super meth or whatever it is. But it is real. It is a real thing. It is a real.
Chat. Dave Rubin said super meth. Like, this grown-ass man went on a national platform and really fucking whole ass with his chest said super meth.
Thing that are on any of these drugs, you would not want to push a carriage down that block. But it's not exactly just about violence per se.
I told you I would actually feel comfortable with that.
Okay, so you
super meth.
You would. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that most parents would not be comfortable with that. But it's not just about that. I would also say, if you spend any time in, well, Hollywood's become a total disaster too. But if you go down Melrose, you go down to these places that were once thriving. The store everywhere. The stores are closed. Okay, there are not shoppers.
This is such an anecdotal bullshit. Like, can we get some stats, Dave?
It's because of the economic conditions.
Exactly. It's a part of the economic conditions. So what we need is economic equity.
No. But who's been running? But Democrats have been running this city forever. Democrats have been running the state of California forever.
Republicans who are running to represent the city, including Spencer Pratt, is not coming in to build housing for all the issues that there is not enough housing in Los Angeles.
But it's not a housing.
The number of people experiencing homelessness.
No.
Yes, it is, because on any
given
night,
housing issue. It's not a housing issue. You could give drug addicts all the beds and homes.
She doesn't back down, but she, having been in settings where it's like constituents arguing and she's a representative and she's trying to get her point across, she knows the moment that it is like past the point of no return, where it is ridiculous and it is the point where communication is shut down. And she knows that's the point to pull back. Dave doesn't. And it makes him look like an ass every time. And it makes him look like he's just shouting over a trans woman.
That there are, and it will not work. It will not work. If you told me that what you were trying to do was figure out truly functional programs that would help these people get off drugs, and they could actually work,
like universal health care,
I could get on some of that. No, but just saying universal health care, and we're going to give health care to everybody.
Well, Dave, you haven't given me a moment to speak and retort. So what I want to say is that on any given night in Los Angeles, in LA County, there are more than 72,000 people experiencing homelessness. In LA City,
that was such a strong move to just point it out that he's not letting her talk. He keeps talking over her.
There are more than 43,000
Democrat-run Los Angeles.
Let me finish. There are more than 43,000 people experiencing homelessness. Yet there are only about 16,000 interim housing shelter beds. Meanwhile, there are more than 250,000 vacant units. Here's the thing, Democrats, what I'm saying...
Is your argument that Democrats have not funded... Is your argument that Democrats have not funded homeless policies enough because they've
My argument is that Republicans are not going to fund it either. They're just going to criminalize our neighbors experiencing poverty, and we cannot criminalize our neighbors experiencing homelessness because they are poor.
But you seem more angry at Republicans who've had nothing to do with this. Republicans have literally no influence in this city or in this state. So even if I could grant you some...
But they have said what they want to do, which is come in and criminalize people who are living poor in public. And that is not going to solve the problem. That is going to solve the problem. This would create more incarceration.
You're angry at people. You seem angry at people that aren't in power and haven't been in power here in decades than the people who are actually in power. If you're angry,
I can be angry at both.
But if you're angry at somebody, be angry at Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, when he was mayor of San Francisco, had his 10-year plan to end homelessness in San Francisco. I am sure I don't have to tell you about the drug and homelessness problem.
You don't. But what we don't actually have is permanent supportive housing. We do not have enough permanent supportive housing with wraparound services. So you can't just criminalize people and throw people in jail.
No. So we have a fundamental difference on what you can do for these people. I don't think that if you take a bunch of drug addicts and just give them beds, that's going to solve anything. I think it's going to prolong.
But it has actually been proven that that is the cheapest thing to do. It is much easier to get off drugs once you are housed.
It for the most part, okay? So we have a fundamental difference there. That's just fine. But what I would say is aim your anger.
I'm sure that you would probably do drugs if you lived on the street as well.
Aim your anger at the people who have been in charge. Your anger should not be at Spencer
My anger is at the duopoly, which is both Democrats and Republicans.
But it's not a duopoly here. It's not a duopoly here. Here in Los Angeles, which has Karen Beth.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thank you.
But I want to point out that the moment that she got voted out was when she started to question the duopoly. Interesting. Eric is fucking good.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Listen, good. I don't have like a fandom of any of these people. But by far, the most entertaining ass fucking person there is Eric. Let me drop Eric. Eric is on Instagram, and you'll find Eric as Eric Say More. What do you mean that wasn't true about the Republicans? Which point? Oh, thank you for the hydrate. Thank you for the hydrate. Eric, say more. Go.
Good.
So I really want to ground this conversation more in what I believe is the greatest damage that's happening right now in America, which is the affordability problem. Okay. And I think that there's no one who has exacerbated that more than Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans.
This was kind of the direction I wanted to go, which sucks because this basically trampled all over any of the points I might have had, any dog I would have had in this fight.
We can talk about cities specifically, but I'd like to just talk about the nation as a whole.
Sure.
If you look, I was previously an economics teacher for 12th grade. And if you looked at the three primary indicators of how the economy is doing, GDP, the labor.
I was amongst giants, chat. There were giants in that room.
Market and inflation. All three of those are indicating that the economy is going in a downhill direction. And that's also validated by a recent poll. 73% of people in America are saying that the economy is in poor condition. Now, if you look at the primary things that the Trump administration has done, taking away people's health care in one big, beautiful bill, the war in Iran, which has raised gas prices, that's really the thing that is making everyone really feel like, oh, affordability, I need to choose between gas and groceries. This is the big problem that we're experiencing. So I don't think that going more in a Republican direction is necessarily going to be helpful for that, because we're seeing that Donald Trump ran on a platform of making the economy better. He appealed to people, the populace, of saying, listen, I understand the struggle. They pointed the finger at immigrants, at trans people, LGBTQ people, but then he made it worse. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that, the economy could actually go in a worse direction. So I just want to say.
Again, I think there's been a certain theme that I disagree with a little bit of the premise there, but I can basically get on board what you said there. Look, if you want to create the conditions for economic success, what I think you have to do is you have to lower taxes literally for everybody, and you have to eliminate as much regulation as possible, right? When we see a massive exodus right now, we'll use New York as an example. Since Mamdani has taken over, they have lost trillions of dollars in tax revenue, right? So the guy wants to fund big government programs, and what he's saying is, I want to tax these people more, and then he is causing them to leave. That is what people are going to do in a free society.
So there's no evidence New York City has lost trillions in tax revenue since Mamdani took office. Official projections show city tax collections in the tens of billions and rising, from about 84 billion in 26 toward 100 billion by 2030. Employment and leasing data also do not show a mass billionaire or billionaire exodus, or mass business or billionaire exodus, rather, sorry. Finance jobs and major office leases remain strong, with limited relocations reflecting pre-existing trends.
Right, we have states' rights, and in Florida, say we have no state income tax, we have low regulation. We create the conditions for economic boom, and that's what we're getting right now. It's not a coincidence that massive corporations.
Right after this.
And if you look at nothing else, between blue and red right now, do you know how many people since COVID have moved to Florida?
I want to touch on what you were talking about, Mamdani, because I don't know the answer to that, but I can say.
Okay, I'm not trying to get you. I'm not trying to get you. So 2.3 million people have moved to Florida since COVID, right? And it was largely because of COVID. And then there were economic opportunities. Now it's because there's a huge
you have to debate
boom down there, and there's lower taxes. And DeSantis is trying to get rid of property taxes, et cetera, et cetera. You know how many people have left California since COVID?
So I would like to talk about Florida gained roughly 1.8 to 2 million residents from 2020 to 24. But plausible motivation factors include pandemic era relocation, remote work flexibility, no state income tax, and initially lower relative.
Not trying to get you.
Billionaires who would leave California if there was a proposed billionaire tax, and the percent is less than 5%.
No, but the billionaires are the billionaires
that billionaires will leave.
But the billionaires are leaving. Peter Thiel left. Elon Musk left. We can look at Ken Griffin.
What does that have to do with
the last 2 weeks? Well, if you want,
you've been voted out by the majority.
Yeah, if you want their money, they're going to take it. All right, I started.
Thanks.
I was going up next, but it got cut.
He didn't try very hard.
No, really. Hi, Kian. Nice to meet you.
Hi, good to meet you.
I want to talk on broken schools. You mentioned that you think schools are teaching kids what to think, not how to think. I just finished my student teaching program today. I'm getting my teacher certificate right now.
Great.
Thank you. Everything we talk about in my program, every piece of what you guys would probably consider to be woke critical race theory.
Unfortunately, because of Dave's debate style, this guy didn't quite stand a chance just because he's not aggressive, and Dave took advantage of that.
Has been so beneficial for me in my student teaching and connecting with our students.
Give me an example.
Yeah, taking students' backgrounds into account when I am planning my lessons, making it actually engaging for them, is the step one if you want to teach them anything. Because if students
can you give me an actual example? I'm following you here. Yeah.
I have noticed a lot of my students are specifically concerned about money and being able to make money in the future. So when we're reading Romeo and Juliet, we talk about the class dynamics at play in that play, because that's something they're interested in. So when I talk about that, they can buy in and they can actually do that.
Okay.
This is something that the right would look at and say is CRT. You're just looking at them because they're from poor economic backgrounds, so they're doing all this.
Well, you haven't mentioned anything related to race. I don't have an inherent problem with what you just described right there. I don't see how that's CRT.
We're not trying to teach people what to think. We're teaching them how to think, and the way to do that is by getting them engaged. And I think we see this in that all the top states are all blue states. All the top states for education are all blue states.
Florida's number one in higher education without question. I mean, you check the U.S. News World Report. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Florida's top 3.
It's not.
We'd have to check.
In the top 5.
Check U.S. News World Report. We can fact check it. Yeah,
please do.
Yeah. What I would say, my basic
fact check says U.S. News 2024-2025 pre-K through 12 state ranking put blue states New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut in the top 3. So the highest rated K through 12 systems in that index are indeed in Democrat-leaning states. But it's not strictly true that every top ranked K through 12 state is blue under all data sets. Florida is ranked #1 in overall education in the U.S. News State rankings, primarily because of its consistently strong higher education performance, while it ranks around 22nd in the pre-K through 12 sub-rankings.
Situation when it comes to education is we should have school choice. We should have charter schools, we should have public schools, we should have private schools.
So
you shouldn't necessarily be stuck in a failing school just because of your zip code.
I'm glad you brought this up.
want to have as much choice as possible within the system. And then it also creates competition. We have a huge
I'm
homeschool.
sorry, I gotta cut you off.
We have
Private
a huge
and charter
homeschool
schools
boom.
are not more inclusive. Do you know what the average cost of
Well,
private schools?
I didn't say anything about inclusive.
You said you don't want people to get stuck.
I don't want people. I want
think
there to
schools
be
should be inclusive.
Well, it depends what you mean by inclusive.
I think that everyone should have similar opportunities, and the way to do that is not with school choice. School choice.
So you want
state?
You want state-run, no competition.
I think having public schools is the best way to get the most amount of people, and if we make public education good, and we actually put resources into
that's
it.
a hell of a caveat.
I know, but who's in
school
charge? Choice is what gets that.
But if you want school choice,
yes. Where do you think the funding goes with school choice?
Let him talk.
It comes from public education to go to private and charter schools.
Right. So I would have as many charter schools as possible, as many private schools as possible. I would encourage homeschooling.
So you want to?
I would encourage
eliminate public schooling.
I think actually you could over time. I think you could, but I'm not calling for that today. You want?
Can I tell you what I really want?
Schools.
Can I tell you what I really want?
So might I recommend?
Schools have always been state
but has always been state run. And how do you think that's working out?
I think it was working out really great until we started gutting our funding. If we look at class sizes right now, can I talk about class sizes?
Sure.
My teacher, my mentor teacher, has class sizes of up to 40 students in her classes.
So I would.
That is not sustainable. If we put more funding in, we can hire more teachers for those public schools to get class sizes down, which is the #1 thing.
So you think,
if
we just put more money into these things,
I think if we hire more teachers, then we have lower class sizes. Teachers like myself can individualize our curriculum. We can take individual students into account in our lesson planning, which is something I do because I was lucky enough to have a small class size, but other classes don't have that, so it's not possible.
It strikes me that you would be quite a good teacher, likely in a pod or at a charter school or at something where it would be more one-on-one.
I'd be a good teacher anywhere, I promise you.
We got to pause there.
That's
fine.
That was a really good place
by the majority.
And he would be. Thank you. Very patient. Unfortunately, because of his patience, this Rubin guy, Dave Rubin, just kind of was barreling over him, just talking over him, trampling all over him. We're going to go on to the next person. But real quick, just going to take like a 5-minute break. When we get back, we've got about an hour of this left, a little less than an hour. That should take us through all the way to 7. Don't go nowhere. I will be right back. All right, I'm back. So sorry about that exit. That was so loud, and I apologize. I didn't think it would be that loud. So, we're gonna get right back into it. And a really cool thing about taking these breaks is it gives me a chance to chill the studio, because we don't run central air because that shit's expensive. But let's get back to watching Surrounded. I think this slot, or like the last slot, was when I went up, and I got cut out. Here goes Parker Get a Job.
Good. What is one main metric?
If I have to be honest, this is like the liberal left's MVP. This kid sits on TikTok and just debates all day, and he's really good at it. His viewpoints, however, as when I was his age and with probably, I don't know, I'm gonna guess he's probably not come from a harsh socioeconomic background. Just guessing by his collared shirt. I'm judging. I'm definitely stereotyping, but just guessing. I would think that just with his upbringing, like that's what he's been exposed to, and socialism is probably not something he's looked wholly into, I would guess. But he's really, really good. Huge following. This is Parker Get a Job, who you will find on the Clock app. And I'll drop that link here if anybody wants to check him out. But this is for, at least, I can't deny, this is hella entertaining.
That Donald Trump has made better off since he got in office. So like an example would be GDP, unemployment, inflation, etc.
Well, right now, first off, the big beautiful bill was just passed last year, and it's kicking in now, right? It's kicking in now. Okay, so we're going to now see results of that, like even the tariffs. All right, so let's do tariffs.
He's saying this during like the highest
against the universal tariff. So what's the main metric that he made better off?
What?
What's the main metric that he made better off? GDP, unemployment, inflation? Do you have any idea?
Listen.
I don't think you do.
Do you think? Hold on. So you're arguing that things economically were better.
So he's literally taken his prompt and just asked for proof of it, of how Trump's policies are good or are affecting things positively. He's pinned against a wall and he can't say anything. He literally has nothing. And so now he's trying to reframe the argument. This is a shit show. Rubin got completely pounded here. Parker Get a Job is a fucking tight.
Under Joe Biden.
At the end of his administration, absolutely.
Yeah, so can you give me an example of how?
Yeah, GDP growth was better off. Real median wage growth was better off. Inflation was better off at the end of his administration. Unemployment was better off at the end of his administration. We had the worst year of job growth in the past 4 years, just this last year under Trump's administration. The inflation, 3.8% year over year since Trump got in office. We're seeing all of those economic indicators become worse off. Can you tell me anything that he's done to make it better off? You say it's broken for Democrats. It sounds like it's broken right now under Trump.
Have you looked at the stock market?
It's worse off in terms of growth in 2025 as compared to 2024. If you look at Dow Jones and S&P 500.
They're both up quite a bit right now.
He is scared because this guy came out of the stall like a fucking racehorse.
A lower
doing
growth
quite
rate.
well. Things don't happen overnight. So Donald Trump, for example, things don't. That's true. That's true. There's reality. There's actual reality. Like you put policies into place and they don't just kick in the next day, right?
GDP growth, Trump 2025 2.2, Biden 2.4. Inflation, Trump 2026 3.8, Biden only 3. Unemployment, Trump, April 2026, 4.3. Biden, 4.1. 2025 is Trump's worst non-COVID year for job growth. True. The S&P 500 returned 16.39% in 2025, which was a decline from the 23% to 24% growth seen in 2024. But honestly, that only helps rich people. So who gives a shit?
Trump, in a year and a half.
Donald Trump said when the tariffs...
He said in a year,
hold on.
prices would be down 50% for electricity. Are they up right now?
Hold on. Donald Trump, when he brought in the whole idea of tariffs, would you agree that for the last 4 decades, we have had completely lopsided trade deals?
Dude is on his heels. Absolute heels at this point.
With all of these countries where they're tariffing and taxing our products that go to them, and they're getting sweet deals when they sell to the American public. Do you think that's a fair...
Didn't Trump address that with the USMCA, but he went against that when he didn't extend it through the context of his new trade agreement because he wanted to place tariffs on all of them again. And his tariffs that he's placing on are destroying our relationships with countries all around the world.
No,
it's costing him... Wait, please finish.
When you say destroying...
And I was going to bring up tariffs, but there's not a great argument there unless you're really defending Democrats. And again, I just didn't want to do that.
Destroying
it's costing consumers here in this country. A Federal Reserve report just came out indicating that we'd be below pre-pandemic levels of inflation if Donald Trump never imposed the tariffs in the first place. Meaning we'd be able to bring down interest rates and we'd be able to increase investment within our economy and bring more jobs back.
Hold on. When you say destroying our relationships with other countries, well, other countries were getting...
Literally, 2026 Federal Reserve analysis finds the Trump era and renewed tariffs have raised core goods prices by about 3.1% and added roughly 0.8% percentage points to core PCE inflation, meaning inflation today would likely be much closer to the Fed's 2% target without those tariffs. This kid knows his stuff.
Deals, right? If Canada, which was charging crazy taxes and tariffs on our products that were going to them, and we were basically charging nothing back, how can we sell to their market? So if they're upset with us, right? So China is a little upset with right now. Upset with us. We're trying to get fairer deals. Canada, obviously under Carney, is upset with us because we're trying to get fairer deals. Donald Trump is trying to reset things. We were basically the world's piggy bank for the last, it's really basically post-World War II, and Donald Trump is trying to reverse that so that we will have fairer deals. If you told me that it was just zero across the board and there were no tariffs going any which way, I could completely get on board with that. But as long as countries are going to treat us unfairly, often while we foot the bill for their defense or a series of other things, and we give them foreign aid and everything else, well, then we should have equal playing field going both directions.
Well, better.
We take advantage of those countries by paying them amounts for products because their like labor regulations are so much less stringent than ours.
Deal did he get?
What?
What better deal did he get?
What do you mean? Several countries have already come back, and we've
any of the conditions that made the trade better off. Give me the specifics.
Canada, I think they had something like a 60% tariff on cheese, literally on cheese, that was being sold from America, from Wisconsin to Canada, and that basically is zero right now. That's one little example. I think it's zero right now.
Okay, so that's a targeted tariff, not a universal tariff. Can you name one country that had a universal tariff on us?
Fact check. Canada did not have a flat 60% tariff on cheese. That's now basically 0%. Under USMCA, U.S. cheese gets expanded duty-free access within quotas. But Canada still applies steep over-quota tariffs of about 245% on cheese. The protection was not reduced from 60% to 0. That's completely made up.
I think there are several countries that
Name one.
I think there are several countries that did. Honestly, I'm not sure, but I think there are several countries that did.
Okay, so why are we placing universal?
That zeroed out the tariffs. So then I think Argentina did, if I'm not mistaken. I think Israel did. I think a few other countries did.
Why don't we put a proportional tariff on them, the same that they put on us, so that we can negotiate that down? It doesn't seem like Trump's looking for that.
What do you mean? That's exactly what Trump did.
Let me just clarify. The tariffs are being paid by our consumers. So Trump, while trying to get his deals, is making inflation go up and making it worse off for you at the grocery store, worse off for you at the gas pump. Worse off for you when you're trying to buy a house. So can you, again, like you mentioned before, can you name one metric that Trump's made better off since he got in office?
I'm just not sure of the premise of what you're saying, because do you think we should just have free trade with everybody without any penalization?
I thought you were
going
like
either
libertarian.
Way?
Don't you want free trade?
No, that's what I'm saying. So, I think you're agreeing with me. What Donald Trump is trying to do is...
He has an overall decreased tariffs.
He's trying...
The Supreme Court did more to decrease tariffs than he did.
It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, you keep saying that. Have we done anything in his office yet?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Scott Besson every day is negotiating with these other countries. You think that
I think the negotiations are worse off with the JCPOA. We have less political concessions right now than we had a decade ago under the JCPOA. So tell me, what political concessions have we got with the war with Iran since Trump started it?
Well, right now,
So,
Iran literally exports no.
These are points that this guy just sits on TikTok and just grinds through them every day with people. So for him, these are just like greatest hits. This is child's play for him, honestly.
Oil. Every day they are losing $500 million. So what you can do over time is you have a military advantage.
Iran is not exporting no oil, and it's not losing $500 million a day. Recent tanker tracking data cited by the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and others show Iran exporting roughly 1.5 to 2 million barrels a day and earning around $100 to $150 million in oil revenue per day.
Which we had 40 days, which we took out their Air Force and their
This is during the Strait being
their
blocked.
entire Navy and everything else, and now we completely control their
None of those were
economy.
concerned. What's
And
the political concession since the beginning of the war?
What's the political concession
Yes.
from Iran since
Yes.
the beginning of the war?
Yes, name more.
Well, we're having negotiations with them right now.
And we haven't gotten anything?
We're having negotiations
So
with
nothing.
them right now.
So nothing.
Well, we're in a negotiation
We've been
process.
in a war
you
for
can-
2.5 months now. We got
In
no political
negotiation.
concessions.
A war for 2.5
After
months. How long do you think wars are
A decade
supposed
ago,
to
we
take?
had a limitation in terms of them enriching uranium to 3.7%. That was going to be in place until 2030.
just
It would still
covered
be in
this.
place to this
Again,
day.
we
if Donald
started.
Trump didn't fall out of the
They
JCPOA.
didn't do
We
that
started
until
with
Trump
this.
backed
They
us out of the
admitted
trade-
they were enriching past that point.
After the JCPOA.
Steve Witkoff said 2 or 3 days before the war started that they admitted they were enriching more. Also,
when
you
Trump
have
pulled
to,
out of the
you
agreement,
also,
and
you
then
also
the
have
original
to,
strike that we made a year ago,
you also have
they haven't been building up
You also
since
have to go on the
according
assumption.
to the DNI.
Why
the
is
Director
it
of
that?
National
Why is
Intelligence,
it that
Tulsi
you?
Gabbard,
Why
put up
is
the
it that
entire
you
Literally
believe?
just covered
Why
this
would you
trap.
believe the Iranian theocratic regime? Why would you
not.
believe
That's
that
US
they are
intelligence.
doing right?
That's the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, appointed by Donald Trump. So explain to me why you don't believe her.
Listen, Marco Rubio.
Bro, I have secondhand embarrassment for this idiot.
Marco,
Why don't you believe her?
Marco, hold on.
Why don't you believe the entire U.S. intelligence committee? Why do you think they're all lying?
So, are you saying that Donald Trump just ignored the entire U.S.
Yes.
intelligence community?
Yes,
No, he
literally,
didn't.
that's what he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes.
That's it. That's okay. So that's an interesting
What?
disconnect that we have. I mean, Marco
Then why
Rubio.
do they contradict each other?
Marco Rubio very clearly laid out what was going on here. And by the way,
Tell me.
Donald Trump
'Cause he
and
contradicted Trump, too.
Donald Trump and every president for the last 40 years has said that Iran will not get a nuclear bomb. Right? Every president has said that. Joe Biden said no. Remember, Kamala Harris said no
Yeah,
or
the JCPOA
don't.
limited
Right?
it to a greater
Okay.
extent. Why didn't you address that point?
Again, you are going on
He's
the
just
assumption that you
dancing
can
around it.
trust
You won't actually
these
address that
random inspectors that are going into these places.
IAEA?
Literally,
Random
yeah,
inspectors.
Random
Yeah,
inspectors?
all right.
The IAEA is the International
I think-
Atomic Energy.
With all due respect, I think
That's
that trusting some of these international things that they somehow have America's interests or the West's interests in mind, I think is a kind of faulty. It's just a faulty premise. I would
So
say.
the international actors that are
Yeah.
lying. They don't
Yeah, well,
actually
do you
have
think-
legitimate
you-
surveillance over their nuclear enrichment facilities?
No, they don't.
Okay, so
they
that you
don't.
think-
They have.
What
What do you
other
mean? They were
evidence-
buried. They were
Pause here,
buried
guys.
under.
We gotta
They were
pause.
buried
We're
under
running out of
mountains.
time.
They were buried underground.
This guy's unreal.
My next surrounded claim is that progressives push normal, moderate Americans to the right.
Now, this one's interesting because I agree with this too. And to be quite honest, there's so many of us that agree with this that they originally told us there was going to be 3 claims and they actually added a 4th claim. We'll get to the 4th claim. I believe I spoke during the 2nd claim, so I definitely didn't get called up for this one. I just had... Actually, I did speak for this one. I don't know. Maybe I will get shown, but I think I got cut from this one.
Like to debate this
I
claim,
spoke on
please
this
get
one.
to the chair in 3,
Because I was
2,
trying to steer
1.
it. Yeah. Because I was like, I actually agree with you. And, oh, here.
Good to meet you.
So my argument here
So this
is
is
that
Zena.
what progressives are doing is opening up opportunities for people to reevaluate the way that they see politics, right? Progressives are arguing that more pocket power should be delivered
very
to
intelligent.
the average American. That is like one of the foundational tenets of progressivism.
Yeah.
I'm
Can you
confused
say
as-
what that? What is more pocket power? mean?
Okay, right. So this is the idea, right, that under our current system, we see that the majority of power, as well as just like monetary control, exists within people who
On
own
the
private
clock, huh?
property. And to essentially decrease that gap, progressives want to give more power to those who are in the workplace.
Do you not want people to own private property?
Well, I'm definitely anti-capitalist, I would say.
Yeah.
So I would say that workers should own the means of production.
Right. Oh, so you're a communist?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know.
What is communism?
I haven't talked to a real life communist.
What's
in
a
while.
communist?
Well, you want the people to own the means of production, and
yeah,
you don't
so
seem to believe in
the people
private
who create
property.
the people who create value, as in create the value of commodities, should own the actual value that they create from that process. Yes.
So my answer, if you want the people, everyone in this room and everyone in this country to have more, what I would want is that you would take less from them. So you tax everybody less. You remove regulation. You create the conditions for competition and capitalism so that more people will have more of their money. I want you, I assume you work. Do you work?
Yeah.
Do you pay taxes?
Yeah.
I want you to keep more of your money.
Right.
I don't know what you do. I don't know how much you earn. Whatever it is you earn, I want you to have more of that money so that you can put that money back into the system.
The majority of wealth in the system is owned by 1% of the population. You understand that, right? And where does that wealth come from?
Wait, 1% of the population. Do you know how much percent they pay in taxes? That 1%?
Not nearly enough, because the majority of their wealth comes from.
It's 47%. Hold on. So 1% of the population pay 47%. You accept that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would be their fair share?
What percent of that
what would be their fair
is their
share?
actual wealth?
It is not true in a current general sense that 1% of the population pays 47% in taxes. Recent IRS data shows the top 1% pay about 38 to 40% of all federal income tax, with an unusual peak near 46% in 2021. Across all taxes, income, payroll, state, and local, their share is lower still.
They own that again. Majority of these lineages of power and ownership
what would be their fair
back
share?
to
What would be their
first
fair share?
accumulation of
what would be their fair share?
I would say that the fact that they own so much. You're not letting me finish my point.
He won't let anyone finish. He realizes he's getting his ass beat, and then he just starts being frantic, and he just fucking talks over everyone.
Problem. You're not letting me finish the point, so we can't get from point A to B. Do you understand that?
Okay, so
cool.
if you accept that 1%
there's
pay
not going to be a
47%,
fair share when their wealth is coming from the back ends of colonialism. So that's not going to work.
Okay, we got to pause there. We're going to reset. Please return to your seat. You've been voted out.
She was great. People just didn't agree with her because she was a communist.
He's back. All right.
Good to see you again, Dave.
Nice to see you.
It's interesting to point to like 5 anecdotal examples as like an overall.
This is the most clip farming debate I've ever seen, and I was there to witness it in person. It was actually pretty entertaining.
All consensus on where the American people are moving.
Well, I think they qualify more as more than anecdotal in that Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat member of Congress. Bobby Kennedy is a Kennedy, which is a standard bearer for Democrat
Do you think
policies.
Bobby Kennedy is also in alignment with most of his family? Would you say that they would concur that he's a representative of the Kennedy family?
I don't know about most. I know some don't like
most,
him.
Most don't like
some
him,
don't.
especially
Some
those
don't
that are
like
the
him
most
and some
vocal
do.
and still participate in politics.
He's the
But
one
we can
that's
move
in the
from
midst of the
talking about people like
political-
Joe Rogan, Bill Maher. These are people that thrive off of clicks and popularity. What's more clickbaity than I left the left? So many people get that, not just because they're getting a whole new audience in order to capitulate to, but there's also like.
So you think Joe Rogan?
There's also like a lot of like. There's a lot of like oligarchic money too that like can incentivize people to change their worldview.
Wait. That's
like Russian money.
Hold on. That's
like for people like Tim Pool or like what was the Rubin Report? Did that also accept Russian money from Tenet?
All right, I'm more than happy to talk about that. But just very quickly, to impugn Joe's motives, that at the day before the election, he suddenly said, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump for financial or click motives when he's the largest podcaster in the world. That's what you just said.
I'm not saying it's just Joe Rogan. I'm saying that's indicative of people who rely on clicks.
That is quite
We can walk over Joe Rogan specifically.
Yeah.
I think his brain broke during COVID, I'm going to be honest. Because he went from somebody who went from like a huge Bernie Sanders supporter, so pro single-payer healthcare, ensuring that we're more diplomatic in our international
Do you think it's possibly he just evolved? Do you think it's possibly he just evolved to different points?
All of those days.
Do you think his brain broke? It's not possible that he just started thinking about things a little bit.
All of those are political foundations. Believing that the United States should not continue interventionism, believing that universal health care should be a right to people. These are political foundations. You don't just switch your political foundations like that.
Well, hold on.
You find that people are bullying you, or you're saying the left's too mean, as I've heard a lot of times.
It's not a right to someone else's labor. You have a right to
We can have a universal health care debate if you want, but I'm talking the overall why America shifted to the right.
But it seems
I have to talk about the last person who debated. Most people feel like they can't get a leg up in this economy.
That was me. I said that the reason why MAGA appealed to the working class was because they promised them economic mobility. And that was the argument, and that they would actually make that promise, unlike the Democrats who wouldn't. And I wouldn't say that part, because the way the question is worded, progressive push normal moderate Americans to the right. And it's because the right was willing to offer economic mobility. And that's what I said. They got cut out.
Okay, and when you have a Democratic Party, this is where I'm pretty critical of Joe Biden. You're going to love this.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
I think that the Biden administration and then the following Kamala Harris presidential campaign, I don't think that they focus enough on what specifically needs to change in order for the average American to feel like their economic conditions are getting better. And while we can follow the metrics economically, inflation was going down, unemployment was lower, most people didn't feel that. And when you feel like your rent is burdening you, 34% of Americans feel rent burdened, which is huge. When you feel like the grocery prices are continuing to go higher, you're going to try to find an alternative. And when Donald Trump is saying, look, I'm going to fix all of the problems, I'm going to make sure everything's okay, some people are like, yeah, I want to go ahead and go.
Well, that's what politics is, right? Like, it's a secular four-year.
But we're not saying that ideologically Americans are more right-wing. Why do progressive ballot propositions pass even in red states? Nebraska, Ohio, we could go over minimum wage increases.
I got you. You did a lot there. Okay.
Let's answer something.
So, okay, I'm trying. So first off,
it's interesting because this is the only guy that can talk over Rubin there. Everyone else gets trampled by him.
You want to talk about the tenant thing? What do you want to talk about? Where do you want?
Besides maybe Parker get a job.
I'll even give it to you. I'll give it to you. Where do you want to go?
Yeah. Why did you take Russian money and pretend like you didn't know?
I was reached out to by Lauren Chen, who you might know as what's her name, post millennial online or
she's like the Canadian white nationalist that's Asian.
Roaming millennial, and I've known her for about 10 years. Okay. And we were friendly over the years, and we had agreements and disagreements, and we were on each other's shows. And she contacted me a couple of years ago and said that she had some backers that she was talking to, and she was starting a new network, and they were talking to all sorts of people. She mentioned Tim Pool. She mentioned a whole bunch of creators that you guys know and I'm sure love. But it was people all over the political aisle. She said they wanted to create.
Sorry, I'm reading the comments. One of the comments just says, Dave says something. Fact checker, he's wrong.
A free speech network. I said to her, listen, I am extremely, extremely busy, but
1 duck, 20 shotguns.
But I would consider doing something for you as long as I 100% control it.
This is like that scene in Airplane where everyone's lining up to slap that woman. 1 egg versus 20 frying pans.
You have no control over the content whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for a ridiculous amount of money because I don't have time, and we'll see.
It's not a war. It's a 40-day military operation. 30 seconds later. Things happen in war, okay?
See if we can come up with something.
To your defense, I'm not going to attribute you. Like, let's say you didn't know that. And I'm not trying to say that you were able to know that it was Russian money. Yeah. But what I do think is interesting is that this anti-woke movement that just says woke a lot and calls it an ideology, it is so easy to be ideologically aligned that Russian propagandists are like, yes, these are our people. This is how we're going to get the American people on board.
Yeah, I actually am on board with this. He found a really interesting point to argue, and this is actually something I agree with.
That's more of like the issue. It's not really your fault. It's more so that like your whole ideology is like wokeness is bad.
What show did I do for Russia?
What?
What show did I do for Russia?
I'm not saying you did a show for Russia. I'm saying Russia saw you.
Dave Rubin airing his humiliation kink publicly.
What did I do?
Who could easily say the talking points that benefited them.
But do you understand? They gave me no talking points. I did a show. It was a call-in show.
But here's
this feels like it's unfair. It should be 20 Dave Rubins versus 1 liberal toddler to balance out the levels of intellect.
Yeah.
Here's what we're missing, Dave, right? I'm not saying Russia gave you a script to say. I'm saying Russia's like, yes, this is our guy. If we fund him more...
1 rusty nail versus 20 hammers.
And we give him more influence, he's going to do it for us without even getting a script. Isn't that embarrassing?
No.
You did it without even getting instruction from them.
It's a quite literal fantastical adventure that you just went on. Literally.
What's the adventure?
Literally, I did a call-in show
Why
for
would
them.
Russia choose you and Tim Pool? Wait, why would Russia choose you and Tim Pool?
Hold on, you don't even know what I did. You don't even know what the Tenet show that I did, do you? Did you ever watch it? Do you know the name of it? Do you know anything that I did? So you don't. So you quite literally literally have no idea what you're talking about.
They just gave you money because they're altruistic?
No, buddy.
They're just
buddy,
like, we're thinking of giving it to Dave.
No, because... No, well, first off, so just to be clear, you have literally no idea what you're talking about. You don't know the name of the show. You don't know the name of the show.
It's 1 versus 21. It's Ruben versus 21. Because the fact checker's whooping him just as bad as everyone else.
That I did. You don't know the name of the show that I did for them.
I don't
think
I need to know the specifics on a podcaster who takes Russian money.
Oh my God. No, man.
But Dave is trying to respond to you.
Yeah.
So like, let's hear his side.
No, he's not. He's fighting for his life.
Sorry.
He's accusing me of not knowing anything. I know he took Russian money.
But he's also... We also haven't heard his entire feeling.
I literally did a call-in show at first, so my audience just called me and asked questions. Sometimes we talked about basketball, we talked about video games. It had literally nothing to do with foreign policy. I don't think we did one show on Russia or anything else. And then we shifted the show. That was kind of boring to me, so I was like, my team, 5 minutes before we go live, we'll pick viral videos. You know, woman throws hamburger at somebody at Wendy's, and I'll respond to it. That's what we did. And then guess what happened? After about 6 months of that, because I controlled the entire thing. I didn't even know what the clips were before I was doing them. The deal was off. They didn't want to do it anymore because I did not do anything. Yeah, and also notice I'm not under federal indictment. I'm not sitting here with a lawyer or anything else. And as a matter of fact, Merrick Garland, who I'm no friend of, basically said that the influencers had nothing to do with this. And if you read the, just a second, and if you read the indictment, I'm the one that got on the Zoom call with the backer to ask more questions about it and everything else. Yeah.
So Dave, I'm not saying you were saying Russia's such a great country, everyone should love Vladimir Putin. And I get that your show might not even been political in nature.
I know, so you didn't, just to be clear, you didn't know the show, you didn't know the show or what I do.
Dave, shut up.
But the fact that they are building the social capital of the Rubin Report being larger in infrastructure is because...
It wasn't the Rubin Report. It wasn't even the Rubin Report.
You as an entity, Dave, they want to legitimize you more in the eyes of the viewers that they are trying to capture. That is the point of why Russia paid you specifically. They don't do it out of the kindness of their hearts. They didn't do it because they're like, Dave seems like a good guy. They did it because Dave's politics is advocating for cheerleading for...
I didn't know he was a socialist, but he just got publicly owned.
Donald Trump policies, regardless of any criticism. That is the point.
Where is the case?
What do you mean, where's the case?
Where's the case? Where's the case right now? Why am I even able to talk about it? Why don't I have a lawyer sitting here? Where's the case?
I'm not saying what you did was illegal in nature. I'm just saying that...
Well, hold on. There was a federal indictment. Wouldn't I be a little afraid to be talking about it right now?
This is like a fact.
Dave, I'm not claiming...
Are they...
I started this conversation...
Is anyone in jail because of this?
You might not even have known about the Russian money. I'm not trying to cast that blame on you. I'm just saying it's interesting that your show is so ideologically aligned with what Russia wants for the United States that they are going to give you money to continue to to do it. That is the point.
What is it that I do for Russia?
You suck Donald Trump's dick without criticizing any bad thing that he does.
All right, yeah, we gotta pause. Mason, you gotta go.
Sorry.
One of the comments says, to celebrate Pride, Jubilee runs a train on Dave Rubin.
Hi.
Hello.
I actually will agree with you that establishment Democrats have done a really terrible job of ensuring that their policies reflect what the people actually want. Most people want universal health care.
Yeah.
Most people want free higher education so that they can actually get a job and move up in life.
I don't know that it's most people, but a certain set of people
will
do.
say that they would love for the rich to be taxed at the same rate that they used to be, closer towards the 90%, rather than taxing,
tax the rich
rather
at
than
90%.
taxing the rest of the population that can barely pay their rent.
Yeah.
And then they're watching shows like yours, and they're hearing ideology more so than factual evidence.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you know what? Yeah, the Democrats, establishment Democrats, haven't been doing much that they said that they were going to do. So let me listen to this guy, and everything you give is emotion and ideology. So yeah, sometimes people who don't have nearly as much critical thinking as they probably should are going to move to the right.
Yeah.
But honestly, the base that's actually growing are the progressive base. Young voters are becoming much more progressive than they ever were.
Yeah.
Why? Because again, most people
Well,
want
I
the
agree. I
universal
agree with
healthcare.
that. That a lot of young people are very confused about what America
Oh,
is
they're
and what
confused
freedom
about what
is.
they want?
Yeah, they are. So
Really?
I mean, we could just do a few of what you just said. So
Sure.
how much money would you like to take from anyone to get whatever policy you want? What is the number? How much money should anyone have that you want to take to get whatever it is that you want done? Please give me a number.
It's interesting that you're using the rhetoric of taking when we're literally talking about a state, a society that functions solely through making sure that most people have their basic needs met.
So how much?
Unfortunately,
How much?
establishment Democrats have moved so towards the corporatist side that they have forgotten what the people actually want.
So how much
so
of Elon?
That's where
so
we
how
agree.
much of
Where
Elon
we
Musk?
disagree
All right, so let's use Elon
is your
Musk for
rhetoric
example.
around I'm going to
Yeah.
take as much money as I
Well,
can from the rich.
it is taking.
It's not
No, it
no,
is. Of
it's
course, it is. What do you
fairness.
mean? If you don't give, if they say we're going to take it and you don't give it, they're going to put.
One of the comments says, I genuinely can't believe Dave Rubin would agree to this.
You in jail, right? So it is taking. If
You're
it
saying
is so benevolent.
taxes, if you don't pay your taxes, you're going to jail.
If it is so benevolent
Right.
to do these things, then why don't more people do it?
No, it's just part of being a person living in a country.
Okay, so
Every
how much,
country has taxes.
So how much of Elon Musk's money would you like to take from him to do what?
I would
Tell me.
actually like
Yeah.
for billionaires and the
Yeah.
rich in general to
Yeah.
pay the same amount that they were paying back in the 1950s.
Okay, so that's a rather radical position if you want.
In the
if you-
1950s,
Yeah.
mostly
Yeah.
it was Republicans
And
that
if,
were
so
in
you want
office.
to give that money to the system and the government, which you don't seem to like very much, right? You're talking about corporate Democrats and you don't like the Republicans, but your solution seems to be, I will take more money and put it into the system to do what I want. What I would prefer to
do what
is
most
that,
people want.
what I would prefer to do is that you have a job?
Of course.
Yeah, okay, so I would like you to keep more of your money. I want everyone, again, in this room to keep more of their money. You know what happens when rich people have more of their money? They hire more people. They invest in more things.
So untrue. It is crazy. And that's what I'm saying. People like you will spit out this rhetoric, and people who
Trickle-down
are
economics
living
does
paycheck to
not work.
paycheck and don't have nearly as much critical
Okay, we
thinking.
gotta pause there. We're out of.
Listen, this is a fact that like the top 100 billionaires now have as much money like as all billionaires did like 4 years ago. And it's getting worse. Like the rich are getting richer at a faster rate.
We're out of time.
Yeah. My final surrounded claim is that the modern left cares more about ideology than reality.
So we had to go to this prompt because so many of us agreed with the third one.
All right, if you would like to debate this prompt, get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
How's it going, Dave?
All right, all right.
All right. Let's talk about reality.
Okay.
Let's talk about 3 things that.
Evan. So I like Evan. I like Evan a lot. Evan's very well spoken, but again, just because Dave comes with that intensity that he's using to like bully people, he just kind of like talked over him.
Exists in reality. Climate change, Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, and vaccines out of COVID are effective and safe. The right does not accept any of those things.
Yeah.
Does Donald Trump accept the 2020 election results? And do Republicans broadly accept the 2020 election results still to this day?
I think there's a lot of questions about the 2020 election.
Do they? But did Donald Trump accept it?
Does Donald Trump? I think he thinks something went awry.
So he does not accept it. Now, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I
Really?
know. No,
Interesting.
yeah, that's the truth. I know that he was not the president by the end of that, but I do know that in all the chaos of COVID and mail-in ballots and everything else, that somehow magically Joe Biden got something like 20 million more votes than Barack Obama. That's a little bit curious.
Yeah, voter turnout was incredibly high that election because voting was made easier.
Oh, because voting was. Well, you might think it have something to do if you are doing mail-in ballots. There might be a little more access to fraudulent abilities.
You might think that,
or
but
it's
you
just
have to
easier to
actually provide
vote.
evidence to demonstrate that, right?
I'm just skeptical. I'm just skeptical of it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm skeptical of it.
Okay, so
I would
feelings.
venture to say that a little skepticism is probably a good thing.
When
also, the COVID vaccines didn't work. I mean, that's a fact.
That is not a fact.
That is a fact. If you got a COVID vaccine, could you get COVID? If you got a COVID, yes,
the claim was never
transmit it.
Yes,
Joe
the claim
Biden,
was never that transmission was at 0%.
Joe
That's not how vaccines work.
Joe Biden. Hold on. Joe Biden. If you get the COVID vaccine, you will not get nor transmit COVID.
Okay,
that is what Joe Biden said.
But that's not the
Anthony
claim.
Fauci said that repeatedly.
That's not what the right claims about the COVID vaccine. Like similar to yourself,
the right?
you said we're talking about
let
whether or
him
not
start
the right or
talking,
the
he
left
just
accepts reality. Correct. So the right claims that the COVID vaccine is unsafe and ineffective.
Yeah.
That's not
Most
true.
maybe
That is true.
No,
that is true.
Of the people who died from COVID, are the vast majority of them unvaccinated or vaccinated?
Hold on. Do you know
unvaccinated?
I know a young guy who's in his early 20s who never had any health. Wait. Who had never had any health problems. Young, healthy guy in his early 20s who had to get the COVID vaccine to go to college, and he now has myocarditis.
Okay.
Does that interest you at all? Does that interest you? He had no reason.
He had no
reason to get a vaccine that would stop him. It did not stop him from getting COVID, and he could still transmit COVID.
We don't use anecdotes in science. This is let's pull it back to reality, right?
Yeah.
This is why science is so important. This is why
you're
the
telling
left
me
actually likes science, because we understand that anecdotes aren't a good tool to use when assessing scientific research.
So you think the government should have been allowed to force people to get a vaccine.
Okay,
that
so now
was
you're
rushed. That was rushed through by Operation Warp Speed, which was Donald Trump, a guy you don't seem to like very much.
Right. Yeah, sure. But we're pivoting.
Sure.
We're sure. I'm okay with Operation Warp Speed.
So the guy that you seem to be quite deranged about, Donald Trump, pushes through a vaccine very fast, and you're
right
okay
because
with
I
that.
want to ensure that people are healthy. But
even though the vaccine,
what I don't like is the fact that Republicans and especially like right-wing influencers downplayed the efficacy of vaccines and claimed that they were unsafe or ineffective.
But they were ineffective.
No, they weren't.
Right, so
if it reduces
young healthy people had no reason.
If it reduces the rate of transmission, that is literally what a vaccine is intended to do.
We were sold. The bill of goods that they sold us was that you would not get nor transmit COVID. That is the president of the United States' words as he was forcing people to get that vaccine.
If he said that, then I would agree that his assessment of it was false.
He's the president of the United States.
You should. Do you think? Wait.
Are you saying,
speaking of presidents of the United States,
saying we should have been forced
how about
into
Donald Trump in suggesting that people should drink bleach or do hydroxychloroquine? He's the president of the United States.
Yeah,
you think that
literally gave medical advice.
The bleach thing is a completely made up farce. The bleach.
No.
Yes, he told people to inject bleach. Have you seen the whole quote? You think he told people to inject bleach?
He suggested that things like hydroxychloroquine were effective at means at preventing COVID. That's not the case.
There were all sorts of other treatments. There were monoclonal treatments. People did use HCQ. There were all sorts.
Trump promoted hydroxychloroquine as a COVID treatment, contrary to evolving medical evidence, and he publicly speculated about using disinfectant by injection inside the body. Comments doctors called dangerous and baseless. However, he did not literally instruct Americans to inject bleach. That line is a shorthand that exaggerates his exact words, even though his remarks clearly invited that interpretation and had to be walked back.
People used other things, but that doesn't mean that that the vaccine wasn't the most safe and effective means.
Well, there used to be something called herd immunity. There used to be that young people would actually go outside and get sun and run around and do exercise and not be sitting inside playing video games all day and taking takeout food and getting fatter and everything else. Like, you might want to encourage people to be healthy rather than take a largely experimental vaccine that turned out not to be a vaccine.
It was first of all, I don't know what you mean by it. Not a vaccine. It's clearly a vaccine.
It wasn't a vaccine.
It doesn't mean just because something is a vaccine doesn't mean it's 0% transmissibility.
Okay, we got to pause there. You've been voted out.
Okay.
This guy doesn't understand anything.
Ooh,
How is he a commentator?
Hi,
my name's Miriam.
Nice to meet you.
So, I would just like to get into the fact that I think it's actually conservatives and Republicans who don't live in reality, because in reality, Trump is actually making it worse for people who claim they want affordability. Nothing in the big, beautiful bill actually helps poor Americans. It actually increased their taxes and gave tax breaks to corporations and the ultra wealthy. So if we want to talk about who's not living in reality, I think it's the people who are poor but support Trump because they think that he likes them.
Well, again, I think one of the consistent
Really
themes
good
here is that
argument.
we just have a fundamental difference on what makes an economy work. And what I think makes an
Okay, so
economy
what makes an
work.
economy
No,
work?
so what I think makes an economy work
Yes.
is lower taxes for
So
everybody.
did he lower taxes for everybody,
competition,
or did he actually
yeah.
increase taxes for the poor?
He didn't increase taxes for the poor. He
You
didn't
can
increase
actually
taxes
go. You can
for
actually
the
go
poor.
look at it.
So
If you
under
are
Trump's
poor,
current tax regime and the big beautiful bill, most poor households do not face a major explicit income tax hike. And some get small tax breaks, like no tax on tips or overtime. But independent analysis find the largest lasting cuts go to upper middle and high income households, while low income Americans get minimal relief and may pay more overall once expiring provisions, tariffs, and lost credit are included.
after the big beautiful act, you're
What
actually
do
paying
you
more
mean by
taxes.
poor? What qualifies as poor?
You make under a certain amount.
Yeah, well, if you make under something like $50,000, you basically pay no taxes anyway. But if the argument, you guys seem to keep coming around to the argument that if you could just take more from a certain set of people, that we could solve all of the
I'm not
problems.
even arguing that right now.
Yeah.
I'm saying that Trump is not helping people at all. He's not giving tax breaks to them. He's giving tax breaks to the ultra wealthy when he should be giving tax breaks to, you said,
So you
everybody
like tax
at least.
breaks. So you like
well, no,
tax
I'm
breaks.
saying if you want to be like logically consistent, then you would give tax breaks to everybody, but he's not doing that. He's only doing it that with
the poorest people pay virtually no tax. The
Okay,
poorest
but
people
I'm-
pay virtually no tax, and again, the 1% pay
Yeah, so
47%.
the single tax amount that you the minimum income threshold to where the minimum amount you can make and then you don't have to pay taxes, it starts at $15,750. So the second you make $15,751, you have to file a IRS tax form, I-9. So no, it's not like 50,000. He doesn't even know that.
So what percentage would you find acceptable? I really mean that. I seem to not be able to get an answer on that.
I don't want to get into the actual specifics.
Well, of course
no,
you don't.
because
Of
I'm
course you
here
don't.
to actually say that.
But okay, so Elon Musk, who's sending people to Mars.
I think this is
he
not
is doing
relevant,
Teslas,
though.
He's
Okay,
doing
this
the
is not
boring
relevant
but
to
this
your
is,
prompts.
No, because you have to, because human flourishing is important. And when you take someone like Elon
Human flourishing, yes, is
and when you
important. Who
take,
works for Elon Musk?
144,000 people.
Okay, so should those people also be getting tax breaks?
Of course.
So
of course.
why aren't they
Of
under
course,
his
but they
policy?
are. But what are you talking
but
about?
They're not.
But they are.
But they are not.
How many people do you think?
Also,
how many people do you think Elon Musk pays that are making less than $50,000?
They
I'm
are.
going to venture
They're
to
getting
say it's virtually
bigger tax
nobody.
breaks, actually.
Virtually nobody at his companies. That basically everybody's making over 50. That means those people, almost everybody, got a tax break or a tax rebate under Donald Trump. But even
I implore everyone to look that up because if you actually look it up,
I implore them as well.
You've been voted out. You've been voted out.
Because
Oh dear.
Hi.
You get him to
How
just
are
say
ya?
a lot
Love
of
the hair. Love the hair.
false
Oh,
things.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. She's amazing. This is Naima. She's on Instagram as Hair Soup. She did great. This is hilarious. This is so entertaining. She's so good at what she does.
Yeah, so I kind of just want to echo what everyone else has been saying. I do agree that the Republican Party, I feel like, has been much more focused on ideology than reality. And specifically, Trump made several campaign promises to his voters that he hasn't come through on, and yet we continue to hear you guys bootlick him all the time. And it's very frustrating
Well,
to
the
me that you're
topic
not
is the modern
holding-
left cares more about ideology.
Yeah, and I disagree with the claim.
Yeah.
I think that the modern right cares more about ideology. I mean,
What
let's
is
look
that
at
ideology?
so let's look at some of the things that Trump ran on, right?
Yeah.
He ran on an America First campaign, and then he bombs Venezuela. Then he doesn't end the war in Israel, even though he promised he was going to do that.
What
He
do you mean?
starts
The
a
war
conflict.
is over. The war's over.
No, it's
What do you mean?
very much
There's
no.
a ceasefire. There's not one Israeli in Gaza. The hostages are home. There's a
No,
reconstruction
that is
that's beginning.
absolutely not true.
What
That
do you-
is fundamentally false.
Wait, you're saying there are hostages in Gaza right now, and the war is continuing?
The
right now?
conflict has continued. Yes,
Yeah.
there have continued to be bombs. And moving
they're
on.
bombing Gaza right now. That's what you're
Yes,
telling me?
yes.
Yeah, that's not
I mean, I know
that's
you
not
get your
true.
news from
That's not
Grok,
true.
but like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
a fact that's
Okay,
going to happen.
backtrack. Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire framework but Israeli strikes and military operations in Gaza have continued amid disputes over Hamas disarmament and implementation of the deal. Israeli officials say further withdrawal depends on Hamas disarming, while critics argue continued strikes undermine the ceasefire. The hostage issue was central to the deal, but by January 2026, Israel said all remaining Israeli hostages and bodies had been returned.
So he promises to be America first, right? No. He doesn't end the war in Israel. He starts a war in Iran while simultaneously defunding the VA, right? So he's sending people to go fight an unnecessary war while defunding the organization and the institution that helps those people. That's not America first at all. He promised he was going to drain the swamp, and then he puts Kash Patel in, who's drunk at work. Then he puts Pam Bondi in, who's numpty, right? She ain't doing shit. Then he puts Kristi Noem and her big booby boyfriend in, right? He didn't drain the swamp at all. He dumped raw sewage in the swamp. Like, he hasn't come through on any of his promises, and you continue to defend him. You are not accepting the reality that Trump failed his voters.
The topic here is the modern left cares more about ideology than reality.
Yes,
you're
and
giving
I disagree.
The
modern right cares more about ideology than reality.
But that's not what the topic is. If you want to talk about what my claim was, it's that the modern left.
I am referencing your claim. You just don't want to interact with this because you know you're going to lose. You know all these things. You don't want to say that Pam Bondi was a good.
I'll tell you what my claim is. The modern left, which cares more about trans ideology, which cares more about racial ideology.
He doesn't even know how to
focus on you're trying to focus on your definition of progressivism.
I'm going on what's on the paper.
You're focusing
right
on your definition of progressivism because you don't want to admit that Trump has failed his voters.
No,
Trump has failed his voters.
I
he has not come through on his promises.
I just disagree, but that's not what the topic is.
He said he was going to be tough on crime,
This
especially immigrants, but he pardons the president of Honduras, who was literally in jail for smuggling 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. He has not come through with his promises.
I'm confused.
And
so
your
you want the government to be tougher on crime? Is that what you're telling me?
But that's what he promised his voters.
You're a lefty, and you want the government.
I'm just looking at reality. The reality is Trump made a promise that he did not keep.
Yeah.
His actions did not align with what he ran on.
I actually wish Donald Trump was being harder on crime.
Exactly.
And I actually
but
wish.
But the fact that you've defended him for the last 3 hours proves that you're not in touch with the reality of the situation.
No, I wish he was doing more as it came to deportations. You can only do so many things at once. You don't get everything that you want all the time.
You just defended Trump. You just defended Trump's deportation policy. So you wish he was doing more, or you're defending it? What is it?
No. I like the policy. I wish he was doing more.
Okay,
I wish he was doing more.
The fact that you are continuing to support a president who has not come through on his party promises is delusions.
No, it's not delusions.
It is delusions.
Donald Trump, as I said at the beginning,
you sat here and defended him
for
so long.
If Donald Trump did nothing else other than close the borders, he has already done more than enough for the country.
That's whoa. You think in 4 years a president's only responsibility is to close the borders? He's supposed to be running the free world. He's supposed to be running the entire country. That's all you care about is the border?
Economy.
What about healthcare? What about the national debt? He's increased the national debt by $2.5 trillion. You don't give a about that?
If you have a slow, soft invasion of your country happening.
Fact check. Trump's first term alone added about $7.8 trillion to the gross national debt. According to nonpartisan budget analysts, that's far more than $2.5 trillion. In his current term, watchdogs estimate the debt has risen by roughly $2.8 trillion so far.
Then at the very least, you can close the borders and start kicking out the people who are not supposed to be here.
Okay, but you just said if the only thing that Trump did is close the borders, that would be an effective presidency to you?
If the only thing he did. No, I want him to do more. And
okay, so then why would you say that him closing the borders would be an effective presidency? The end, full stop.
If I was Donald.
So not only does Dave Rubin not know how to debate, he also doesn't know how to have an opinion.
Trump, because presidents have to do a lot of different things at once. You don't.
Okay, but you just said if he did one singular thing, that's a good president to you.
If
really
relative to where we were with Joe Biden,
that sounds like a lame duck president to me. If the only thing he can accomplish in 4 years is one thing,
you want to have like a silly semantic argument. I think you understand.
It's not a silly semantic argument. I think you understand.
No, I think you understand the point that I'm making. That in and of itself, closing the border is by far the most important thing that had to happen.
Absolutely. So you don't care
we
that
had an invasion into this country, 16 to 20 million people, on top of the fact that we probably had at least 12 million illegals here in the first place.
So you don't care that he just cut $1 trillion from Medicaid. You don't care that he defunded the EPA. You don't care that he defunded the VA.
I don't
you
care
don't
that
care
he
that
funded
he
the EPA, but that's besides the point.
None of those things. You don't care. It's just as long as he does immigration, you're happy.
No,
that's delusional.
That is
you're not
one-
accepting the reality
no, that is
of the
one-
issues in this country.
No, it's interesting. You guys
He's
all
a
seem
bad
to
leader and
hate
he's
the
fine.
government and hate Donald Trump, but you love government programs. I don't understand. That seems to be the disconnect with progressives
yes, we love
as a
government
general
programs
rule.
when they are effective
Yeah.
in supporting the needs of the United States citizens.
Might I offer that most of you guys who are in
We
your
gotta pause
20s, you don't
here.
really understand how the world works.
We got to pause here. We've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seats.
She got him so good. She got him so good.
Good
Oh, this
move.
is Hunter.
How you doing?
So your fundamental claim is that the left is more in touch with ideology than reality,
501
right?
guy.
Make America Great Again is an ideological claim that they are trying to make America great again. That is fundamentally incongruous with reality because Donald Trump is not making America great. He's attacking the fundamental fabric that makes America America. For example, birthright citizenship. One of the things that distinguishes us from other countries in the Western world, in first world countries, is that we have jus soli. If someone is born here, they are an American. If someone believes in the ideals of America, they're an American.
No, wait. But that's just not
Meanwhile,
true. Someone believes in the ideals of America, they're American. So someone in Canada believes in the ideals of America, they're American.
To quote the great conservative thinker Ronald Reagan, there are millions of unknowing Americans.
But they have to become Americans.
The conservative
You don't-
ideology of the 1980s actually invited people into America that were going to work hard and build a better life,
course,
not people who tried to destroy America
You would agree that you have to come
by
legally.
removing those people.
Well, first off, you would agree that they have to come legally?
I think that we need to reform our legal process so that people can come here legally effectively.
So-
Trump has actually
yeah.
shut down legal immigration more than he shut down illegal immigration.
Well, no, that's not
but
true
more
because the border is completely closed.
That
There
is
are
true.
people that are waiting in line to get into
So
the country.
that's not
But
true. Trump
ideologically-
has sent back about 80,000 people
Yeah,
over the
it's-
course of
yeah.
the second administration. Biden sent away 956,000. When it comes to border crossings, Biden stopped much more border crossings than Trump did. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying, objectively speaking,
wait.
on a per year basis, Biden stopped more border crossings than Trump
Is
did.
anyone coming through the border right now?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, what?
According to DHS-based figures, Biden's last full year saw about 778,000 deportations, while since Trump's second term began, DHS estimates deportations over 605,000 and claimed that another 1.9 million have self-deported for a total of more than 2.5 million departures. So he's just making it up. These are just figures that Trump is just trying to inflate because these are the things that they say are good. I don't care about these numbers. I think these things are bad. I think humans migrate naturally, and that stopping a natural event like migration is really stupid and is going to have horrible, terrible consequences as we're seeing now. Great concentration of wealth, practices of societies that harm the environment, and it's just going to go from here.
What numbers are coming through? I mean, the border is
I don't know the exact number because we don't actually track that. We only track border crossings are
The
stopped.
borders are completely closed and they were wide open under Biden. But the Reagan comment that you just made is that ideologically, it's a beautiful thing about this country, which is interesting, which is that, yes, anyone can become an American, but you don't become an American by believing in American ideals. You become an American by having a set of beliefs and then applying to become a citizen and doing it lawfully and legally. And that is completely not what we have had for the 4 years before Donald Trump.
So to become an American, either you're born here or you immigrate here and then you get legal residence and eventually from there you become a citizen. If that's the case, and that's what we're respecting, why is Stephen Miller ordering 3,500 deportations a day, and then to do that,
but
the
of
Trump
people who are here
administration-
illegally?
No,
People-
because
so are
Trump,
you saying we're deporting-
Trump tried to remove temporary protected status of over 500,000 people who are here legally, so that they could reach the 3,500 mark. If someone is changing
are you
the
saying
law
we're
to make someone that has
Fact check. Trump's administration has moved to revoke legal status for roughly 500,000 CHNV parole migrants, putting many previously lawful residents at risk of removal. Officials reportedly pushed ICE toward mass arrest goals of about 3,000 per day, but actual arrests and removals have generally fallen below that. So they are pushing them to arrest the people that have had their legal migration process suspended.
legal status illegal.
Hold on. Are you
That's
saying
not coming after people who came here illegally?
You're saying we're deporting legal.
We're actually deporting
American
U.S. citizens. We deported a 4-year-old kid with lung cancer. We deported a 10-year-old kid
You're talking about because the
with
father.
brain cancer.
If you're talking about
they
because the
deported
father
a 10-year-old kid with brain cancer.
But you're
They
talking
kept
about because the
4-year-old
father
kid.
was illegal and they didn't want to break up the family.
Was
correct?
the kid an American citizen or not?
By the law of the United States, if the kid was born here by birthright citizenship, then he was. But are you saying
Why are you
that
deporting an American citizen?
Because they were deporting the father.
Why
so
are you
they made
deporting?
the choice.
The reality is that the kid is an American citizen. Why are you deporting an American citizen unless you are ignoring the material reality?
You want to separate the father from the child?
No, but if they are receiving medical treatment, life-saving medication in a first world country, granted one of the worst healthcare situations in a first world country, I think it'd be
I just want to make sure we're
Sweden.
talking about the same case. So in this specific case, you grant that the father was illegal, right?
We're talking about multiple cases. There's a 4-year-old kid with lung cancer, a 10-year-old kid with brain cancer.
The father was illegal, correct?
From my understanding, one of the parents was not documented.
Right. So they didn't want to break up the family. I don't think you would want to do that, and I wouldn't want to do that.
If they were acting in the best interest of the child, why were they withholding medication while they're in detention?
We got to pause here.
Again, the father was illegal. They didn't want to break up the family.
We got to pause here. You've been voted out.
Okay.
I mean,
listen, Dave,
that
I'm going to
one's
be honest.
tough.
I'm a little tired, but I'm not the president, so I'm not going to fall asleep, okay? Give me a second. Let me see that. So I want to defend the Democratic
David
Party
came up to
because
do a little bit of clip farming.
I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But let's slow down. First of all, I'm pretty sure you talked a lot of shit about Joe Biden and he's demented, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to defend the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Do you not think Joe Biden had cognitive problems?
I'm joking. I'm joking. Hold on. I'm joking. Okay. The Democratic Party is
Are you an improv or something? I'm just curious.
Can we lock in or
I'm just trying to
lock
figure
in,
it out.
King?
Yeah,
Listen.
no, I'm
Lock
listening.
in,
I'm trying to read what's going on
The
here.
Democratic Party, the left,
Yeah.
is clearly receptive to the needs of the American people because it's shown in the elections. It's shown in the candidates that they're giving out. If you need Zoran Mamdani in New York, you'll get it. If you need Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, you'll get it. If you need James Salarico in Texas, Ossoff in Georgia, you're going to get it. But you know what party hasn't changed their mind? What party is so crazy that they will go back on their #1 campaign promise and say affordability is a hoax? It's MAGA. And it's evident that, hold on, a lot of people say Trump is stupid. And I think he's a little dumb, but I think he's also malicious. Reality is what Donald Trump makes it. And a perfect example is his response to a tragedy. When Charlie Kirk was murdered, hours before there was even a suspect in custody, Donald Trump blamed half of the electorate. Nancy Mace said the Democrats own this. Van Orden said that it was the fake news media for peddling these radical points. You know what AOC said? This is a time that we need unity. This is a time we need to come together. We need to deal with political violence.
Yeah.
The Republican Party, MAGA, uses death as a cudgel to justify the unjustifiable. And that is denying reality. That's making reality whatever you want it to be. And people like you are corrupted enough to spew it all over social media.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
I'll respond.
Got his
Out of all
ass.
the people, I have to say you're the worst, like by far.
Yeah, because you're having a lot of trouble responding to things I say. Yeah.
You honestly believe that there is a moral equivalence to the tone and tenor of what goes on the right versus what goes on the left? Yeah. Did Hassan Piker, who is the #1 influencer on the left, did he not just go on an interview? I'll give you 2 examples. He went on an interview a couple weeks ago and said that he understands why Luigi Mangione killed Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO. When you guys open up that Pandora's box, guess what? There's a lot of people that don't like your ideology. And once you can kind of excuse violence, it's coming every which way. And then it happened again. In the New York Times interview that he did 2 weeks ago, he said the same thing. Well, Donald Trump, a lot of people don't like Donald Trump, so I can kind of understand why people might kill him. Once you guys do that, once you go past
by saying
that
you understand
red line,
it,
it literally ends the fabric of what this country is, because we are allowed to have political disagreements. We have deep political disagreements. I would never tacitly endorse or pretend to condone someone if they tried to violently harm you or any of these people.
Things
but
are
subtly
so
on the left,
bad.
that
You
is being
can't
allowed.
understand?
And that simply is not happening on the right. That simply is not happening.
Okay, we got to stop there because we're out of time. Dave, we are now at the final portion of the video. Please look around the room. Choose somebody who you haven't spoken to or who you want to speak to more. They will bring their own claim, and you'll debate for 10 minutes.
Sure. I have to say, first off, I thoroughly enjoyed this, believe it or not. This is what it's all about, and we can agree.
So Dave Rubin has a humiliation kink confirmed.
Disagree. It's what my entire career and life have been about, so that's just fine. There was some odd moments of real tension, and I could see some real hatred in a couple of the eyes, but 2 that I did not see it in were you and you. So this is a complete toss-up with the two of you. But I actually think our conversation was the most interesting, and I think there's the most room to try to get something on the other side of this. So I'd love to bring you back up. Yeah.
Maybe a girl. Let's go.
My surrounded claim is trans rights are human rights. One of the first initiatives of Donald Trump in this current president.
Okay, so for this one, they actually have most people leave. Most people are actually not present for this portion. So I have not seen this debate. I'm kind of bummed that I didn't get a stay. I can see that they do have some people in this for the shot in the back. There's not really a benefit. I don't think you really get to participate at all. You just have to kind of sit there. You're kind of doing background stuff. But I'm excited to watch this. I'm going to take a quick break. This last segment's about 15 minutes long. But I'm just going to run like a 5-minute ad, and we'll be right back to watch the last 15 minutes of this. So don't go anywhere. I will be right back. I'll try to do the music lower this time. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about it. All right. Let's watch the last 15 minutes here. Let me see. I think it's, let's see, 28 to 41. So yeah, a little over that, a little 15 minutes or something like that. I'm really excited. Again, I have not seen this part of the debate. I'm sorry for the robot voice, but I'm gonna turn off the air conditioner now that it's a little cooler, and let's watch maybe a girl debate Dave Rubin, the absolute masochist.
He put forth an executive.
Now, real quick, just a reminder: trans rights are human rights, is the claim.
My surrounded claim is trans rights are human rights. One of the first initiatives of Donald Trump in this current presidency, he put forth an executive order essentially attempting to ban gender-affirming healthcare for people under 19 years of age. Yeah. And when we say under 19 years of age, this also includes adults who are 18 years old, who are old enough to go off and die in a war for oil, imperialism, and
so fact check, January 2025, President Trump issued the executive order 14187, protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation, which defines a child as anyone under 19 and directs the federal government to not fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support gender-affirming medical treatments for people under 19, including puberty blockers, hormones, and surgeries, while instructing agencies like HHS and DOD, the Department of Defense, to change coverage and funding rules accordingly.
Israel, but they can't make their own healthcare decisions.
Okay, let's do this. I love how you guys have to get Israel into this thing. It's like Israel is the one place in the Middle East that you could go and you would be celebrated.
I couldn't get married there.
That's actually the truth. Well, yes, they are not perfect, and no country is, but you would be treated equally and with respect, and they have the biggest LGBT pride parade. It's coming up in 2 weeks. You should probably go. You might find it quite interesting. Anyway, as far as the claim, I 100% believe that trans rights are human rights, or that trans people should be treated equally under the law, 100%. Now, so what your claim is about people that are under, let's say, 19, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that's a different thing. If you are going to chemically castrate a kid, or if you are going to give them hormone blockers, or a series of other things when they are 5, 6, 7, 12, when they're in the middle of what? Wait,
that's not happening.
Wait. It is happening. It is happening. Or if you are going to literally have schools where they are calling a child by a different gender and a different name without alerting the parents, et cetera, et cetera. These things are happening. Then I am not for that. But, however, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 39.
Can I ask a lady?
See, I'll
even use your pronouns, because as long as you treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect.
I'm 39 and a half. I'll be 40 this summer.
All right, great.
And
so, wait. So let me say something. So I want you to be treated under the law with 100%
can't get a word
equality.
in.
Every single thing that I and everyone else in this country should be treated to, which is equality of opportunity and equality under law, you should be treated. I'm not that interested in talking about my sexuality. It's actually a very unimportant part of my life in a weird way, and maybe that's because I'll be 50 next month, and as time goes by, you realize you just are who you are, and you do the best you can in the world, right? But I understand feeling. I grew up in a time when there was no gay marriage, and when I was a kid, for however confused I was or anything else, there was I never thought about the future because it wasn't even a thing. Like, there was literally no future. And then magic happened over time, and we got equal rights. I have been married.
He thinks that gay marriage happened by magic. He literally said that shit.
For it's a long time now. I've been married for about 13 years. My husband and I have been together for 15 years. We're in a 100% monogamous relationship. We have 2 of the most incredible kids who I want to grow up with the most amount of respect and love, and who are safe and cherished, and all of those wonderful things, as I hope, if you want, you will get in your life too. The reason I mention that is because the difference between equal rights for everybody, versus what you might do to a child are very different things. If there is a child who I suspect when you were a young kid, how old were you when you thought you were in the?
I was 5. I was 5 years old when
Okay.
I realized that I was a trans person.
Okay. I can accept that.
Can I also ask how old you were when you realized that you were gay?
I mean, I came out very late for a series of other reasons.
And are you still gay?
Only after 10 p.m., so I don't know what time it is right now.
Okay.
Oh, look, I made him laugh. There you go.
You know, I think...
Wait, I'm not... Wait, hold on. I'm really...
Continue.
I think I'm granting you an awful lot here. The only thing
Not
that I
really.
would say...
She's barely said
related
anything.
to a 5-year-old who is having gender dysphoria or whatever term you want to apply it to, is that you should wait until the child can make those decisions properly for themselves. That your brain at 5 was not developed enough to do it. And there was so much social pressure over the last couple of years to trans kids. Abigail Schreier wrote an incredible book about this, that a certain amount of it is a social contagion. That is true. That is empirically true. I'm not saying it was
False.
you, right? I'm not. I'm friends with Blair White. I believe that Blair was biologically a male and believes that she, and I will call her she because she treats me with respect and I'll treat her with respect, that she transitioned when the time was right. The issue for most people on the right is about the kids. I can tell you this, it's funny because a lot of you tried to use my sexuality against me.
What do you mean don't fed posts?
Yeah, I'll get there. Listen, a lot of you tried to use my sexuality against me, and I can tell, and it's interesting because you guys also think sexuality is very important, right? So you would think I would have been afforded, as someone that travels in circles that you guys don't, I go to Republican things, and I have to traverse that a little bit, and it can be tricky at times, but I've shown Republicans that you can be a decent human being who can have a family and be monogamous. That job,
Dave, I really
suspect
appreciate you being kind. We're less than 5 now, and I have not really had a moment to speak.
Yeah. So again, I'm just making the point between children and adults. I want you to have...
And that's exactly what I'm going to respond to right now.
Enough.
I appreciate your kindness. I appreciate you not misgendering me. I appreciate you treating me like I'm just a regular human being. And that's what trans people are. We are just regular human beings with the same struggles, trying to get through this life. Actually, more struggles, because we have this whole group of people who want to take away our rights. Sure. As somebody who's been an elected...
So can you
let
just
me
tell
finish,
me what right...
Let me speak.
But what right?
Yes,
I'm just asking. What right as an adult?
Right now, as somebody who's been an elected official in Los Angeles...
I mean, as it came out earlier, Russia literally paid this guy just because he is an agent of chaos. He's a divisive figure. He's gained popularity and support because he muddies the water. That's why he's famous.
Since 2019, every single year, I've seen more and more and more anti-LGBTQIA bills moving across the federal legislature and across state legislatures all across the U.S. And when I say anti-LGBTQIA bills, what I actually mean is anti-trans bills. Bills that are trying to limit our existence in society. Bills that are trying to limit how we can receive healthcare, how we can make our own autonomous healthcare decisions, how we can even participate in going to the bathroom. We all have to take a shit, and that is something we should be able to do freely and privately without somebody recording us in the bathroom and trying to make us go viral and make it seem like we are the predators. Now, you describe this idea of 5-year-olds being chemically castrated. Here's the thing. You cannot compare a 5-year-old who is going to perhaps socially transition and wants to go by a name that is opposite of the gender they were assigned at birth, or want to wear clothes that are different. 5-year-olds are not receiving any sort of medical transition. And so you say that they should wait. And that's true. And that's exactly why puberty blockers are prescribed to teenagers that are about to go through puberty. And here's the issue.
How old is that, would you say?
I would say anywhere from probably maybe like 10, 11, 12.
Right. And
here's the thing.
But do you think their
puberty
brains are
blockers
developed
have
enough
been,
to know the full,
yes, I do.
The full ramifications of what they're doing?
Yes,
a 10-year-old?
because puberty
that's
blockers,
interesting.
puberty blockers have been around for over 30 years. They've been prescribed to kids who are experiencing precocious puberty. And yet this has never been an issue for the right. It is only an issue for the right when somebody decides, oh, I'm trans, and they together with their family and their physicians want to make that decision. So they're not getting surgery at 10 years old. They're taking puberty blockers to make that decision over time with their family and their physicians. There is no reason why you or the President of the United States should be able to decide what is right for somebody's healthcare, for an individual, for somebody else's child, unless you are their doctor or their parent.
Okay, so
that part.
Listen. I have a couple fundamental disagreements with that when it comes to minors, but the issue is about trans rights are human rights. So we can
trans people are disproportionately unhoused, disproportionately experience housing discrimination, healthcare discrimination.
Again, if you told me, wait,
we
hold on,
are legal.
Hold on,
we are actually experiencing discrimination every single day in every realm of society.
Yeah, I've experienced discrimination. I'm going to guess almost everyone here in some way has something that they've been discriminated against or judged upon or something else. What you have in America is equality under the law, and you have an opportunity
we don't when Republicans are trying to legislate against us.
But tell me, so you as an adult, what law is stopping you from doing anything that another person cannot do, that literally anyone in this room cannot do?
See, this is the thing, is you were trying to hide behind this idea of the law.
No. But I mean that.
But the reality is laws are not protecting trans people. If they were, trans people would not be disproportionately unemployed, unhoused,
what would you like the law to do for you? Again, the law can guarantee equality. It can't guarantee protection, right? So
yes, it certainly can.
So what would you like the law to do for you?
I would like the law to protect trans people, and it's not. The law, our legislators are actively legislating against us.
Again, if there was a law, if you can point me to a law that was discriminating against trans adults, they can't get a job, they can't, whatever.
I just said at the beginning of this debate, Donald Trump is trying to ban gender-affirming health care for people who are 18 years old.
You're talking about minors. You're talking about minors.
18-year-olds aren't minors. They can go off and die in a war, but for some reason, they can't make their own autonomous health care decisions, according to Donald Trump.
Okay, listen. When we're talking about young people, it's a different thing. It's
exactly. And these are not your young people. They're not his young people. These are, no 5-year-old is walking into a medical office and getting puberty blockers without the consent of their parent or their...
So you don't think there's any element of social contagion over the last 10 years?
I don't. And even if there is, that's okay, because there's nothing wrong with being trans. And if somebody decides to detransition, that's okay, but they can't tell everybody else that they're not allowed to transition.
Again, I think we're sort of splitting hairs on this, that we're agreeing to disagree on, perhaps we're agreeing to disagree on the underage portion of it. But again, as an
how many
adult,
times have you seen people on the right make fun of trans people because, especially trans women, because they look like a man? But you're allowed
to make
prevents
fun
them
of
by
people.
allowing them to go through puberty blockers and to make their own autonomous healthcare decisions.
Yeah, but okay, so have we whittled this down to some people make jokes about people? They do. They make jokes about people.
They're not just joking. They're trying to legislate against our very existence.
But again, if you...
your friend Michael Knowles at CPAC said that we need to eradicate transgenderism in society. That is a direct threat to me, my neighbors, my friends, and family.
Okay, I promise you this. I promise you this. If Michael Knowles or anyone else starts pushing for legislation that will jail you or stop you from getting a job or any of the other freedoms that we all enjoy, I promise you I will be on your side of that. So
I can't wait to be on your show soon.
All right, then there we go.
Thanks for chatting, Dave.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Tune in this Wednesday for a follow-up conversation where I'll talk to some of the cast from this episode and we'll dig deeper into some of the moments that happened here. If you agree with Dave's prompts or you disagree, let us know in the comments and keep the discussion going there. But we just ask that you acknowledge the humanity of all the participants. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
I think that the disconnect between the online world and the real world is getting larger and larger. And so that was why I kind of wanted to do this in the first place, because I was like, I exist in the online world. I talk to a lot of people that I enjoy talking to, but it's hard to talk to lefties.
I think Dave totally misses the ball in that he completely buys into Republican framing, especially economic issues, and doesn't understand that things like government regulation are empirically shown to better the lives of the people that they intend to better.
I think Dave, all love, was incredibly mediocre. And I don't know if he's fallen victim to or is willfully doing this, but it's clear that he's either fallen victim to the MAGA agenda or the money instability is too nice for him to ever actually change his position and really appeal to the needs and desires of the American people. The left does not want to concede to MAGA.
Wow.
Every single time you give them an inch, they take a mile. So I guess this pattern of them operating in bad faith has made it so our elected officials, a lot of people on social media, et cetera, are very hesitant to give them ground because who knows what they're going to do with it.
But if these guys would just tone it down a little bit, they have no idea what conservatives think. They have no idea how generous and kind and decent most conservatives are and that they want the same things. At the end of Trump's second term, there may be a desire for something a little more normal. And I say that as a Trump
A little
supporter,
more
right?
normal?
Like,
Are you fucking kidding me?
He was necessary. We needed him to break something that we all could kind of see.
We needed him to break something. So now he's admitting Trump is breaking the country.
Start feeling a little more the way we thought politics were.
What the fuck? Did he just say that the leader of his party is breaking shit? Dave Rubin is a fucking clown. And I hope to never communicate with him again or have to evaluate his thinking or yeah, you get the gist. Thanks y'all so much for being here. We're going to go ahead and raid out. That was one MAGA versus 20 far left Democrats featuring Dave Rubin, aka 20 hammers versus one rusty nail. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to be here tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a gaming stream and we're going to pop open a review. I've got over 20 titles in my Steam that are new to me, that are usually indie titles that we're going to play something new that I haven't played before, a new game that you probably haven't heard about before. I get a lot of games sent to me, so. Oh, you're very welcome, Jules. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for being here again. Thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and raid out, probably to a guild member. You know how I do. And yeah, I'll see y'all tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time. You should be here. Bye, besties.